What's up, guys, and welcome to the first ever Mythgard Open brought to you by 983 Media, obviously in partnership with Rhino Games, and the decks are brought to you by Mythgard Hub. But I mean, just that intro alone, that gave me some hair-raising, tingly goodness right there. I think we're all pretty excited. It is the biggest event in Mythgard history. It's the biggest event in Rhino Games history. And what better way to celebrate that than with the mighty Wholesome. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Woody. Thank you so much for having me here. Can't wait to see what's going to happen in this top 8 bracket. It's got me all sweaty palms and, dancing in my seat. I'm ready for it.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. And as you said, this is the top 8. So the Mythgard Open was a 2-day event. 1,000 smackaroony dollars on the line for the top Myth, or not the top Mythgardians takeaway, because it's broken down between the top 3 Mythgardians, but we'll get into the prize breakdown a little bit later. But yeah, yesterday saw the Swiss, 6 rounds of Swiss, some of the best players in the game battling it out and bringing their decks to the line, shall we say. And one of the big features that was introduced to that was the ban system, right? And it's very new into the game, and I think it's fair to say it really spiced things up a little bit. We saw in the previous tournaments recently in Constructed that yellow-green was, I don't want to use the term that it was like overpowered, because I don't think it was. It was just a case of it was very hard to counter with the wrong deck, correct? And we saw that the option to ban that deck meant that I watched quite a lot of the games yesterday, and yellow-green almost didn't make an appearance almost anywhere. Do you think that the ban system it's brought so much kind of, I don't want to say life, but so much variety into this tournament, correct?
Yeah, I think it has, and I think it's added a lot of strategy, right? So you notice certain players, they just came ready to beat certain types of decks, certain archetypes, right? And having the ability to ban that one thing that they weren't prepared for really takes that to another level.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen that strategy where some people are bringing just very strong decks that are for simple terms, they're ladder decks that have been tweaked to make them more tournament decks and tech against more popular decks. But we've also seen some people genuinely just building decks to completely tech into anything that they think people are going to bring. And I have to bring up Reg there, right? Because Reg is very bold. Now, before we get into Reg's decks, just to kind of give a breakdown to people who are watching, this is a Conquest format. Wholesome, you're the man here to explain what, in layman's terms, what is Conquest format?
So the Conquest format in Mythgard is where you bring 3 different decks, and they're going to be all of them built under a single deck restriction, right? As if they were one. So every deck is going to need a different path and power, but you're not going to be able to use the same cards in one deck as you in another. So basically, you can split. It's all based on rarity, right? So you can have 2 commons of, let's say, eager recruits in one of your decks, and then 2 in another, but you can't have 4 and 4. Yeah. And same with mythics. You can only run 1 mythic in one deck, and it can't be used in another deck as well.
Yeah, so you're building your decks, aren't you? Like, as you said, from one whole collection. The term last time was you're just spreading it around on the table, every card you own, and then you're picking from that. There's no, you can't make extra copies of it, because they just don't exist basically in this format. Which has meant that the reason I want to bring up Reg, obviously there are 7 other players, and we're not going to give just one player the limelight. But what I want to just mention is they brought 2 tri-color decks. Now think about that. You're pulling all these cards from one single pool. 2 tri-color decks in the Conquest format is very, very gutsy, correct?
Yeah, it's very gutsy, and once we get into their decks, you'll see exactly how they were able, because building decks under this format is extremely hard, and y'all will see what Reg has done with their decks here shortly.
Yeah. Now we should say that Reg did actually finish 9th yesterday in the 6th round of Swiss, but Rune, who did finish top yesterday, went 5-1 yesterday. They unfortunately they can't make today. They had they're preoccupied, shall we say? So they very, very kindly gave up their space to 9th spot, and that happened to be Reg. And so we wish Rune the best with whatever they're doing today. But it means that we can see this very gutsy take on building decks to purely counter what they imagined, and quite rightly, what people brought to the game.
Exactly. I'm really excited to get into it because they've done an incredible job. I think all the players have come really well prepared, and I don't think they would have made top eight if they weren't, right?
No.
I think the deck building process in this format, there's a lot of skill behind it, and that's going to translate into winning the matches. Even though Mythgard has insane player agency, and it's really comes down to how you play your deck, right? But the deck building process behind Conquest is insane.
Oh, completely, completely. I'm here. We're about 10 minutes away from first game, guys. So before we get there and before we start diving into bracket and decks to break all that down, just some stats for you to kind of bring them to you. And these stats are brought to you by Mythgard Hub, our favorite resource of Mythgard. One little thing on that. All top 8 decks are available right now on Mythgard Hub. You can literally get over there now on the homepage. You can get in there. Any deck you see today that's being played and you think, oh, that looks deliciously spicy, you can go download it, import it straight into your game, and obviously play that deck straight away. Now, the most common color, shall we say, brought was blue with 25.24%. So just over 25% of decks either are blue or feature blue. Does that surprise you at all, Wholesome?
No, not at all. The top aggro deck that has just been dominating since even before the expansion has been mono blue Valkyries. So that does not surprise me one bit, Woody.
Which leads exactly into the most popular mythic brought in the game. It's actually tied for Kara Morning Wives and Magnus Thorson, both blue cards, both staples of that mono blue deck you said. 8 being brought, meaning that every player has brought that card to the top 8. So it shows you just how strong that mono blue deck really is.
Yeah, if you're running any blue deck, those two mythics, Kara and Magnus, are gonna be, you're just jamming those in there. They're too good a value to not run. And yeah, they're just insane threats and answers.
Yeah, completely. Second place, if you want to call it, on the colors, the most popular colors is red with just over 18%. Just over 18% of decks are either red decks or feature red as a color, which plays into the most common rare being brought is Wings of Abaddon, and that's 14, obviously, because you're allowed to bring 2 of the card because it's rare. So having red and blue is your most popular colors. Again, is that so? Are you surprised being red just behind blue in terms of popularity?
Not so much. I mean, maybe before the nerf to weapons check, it would have been a little surprising. But I think since weapons check is gone, like it effectively nullified any kind of rush, right? So now that it's been nerfed and it's not seeing much play anymore, I think yeah, red, it pairs super well with green. It pairs incredibly well with orange, even with yellow and blue. Like it pairs so well with all the colors that it's just solid all around.
No, definitely. And rounding out the colors, you said weapons check. Green card, it's just over 16% of decks feature green or are green decks. Then we have yellow in 4th spot, which is just over 14%. Then we have purple, just over 13%. And orange, this one did surprise me. Orange is the least popular color in the top 8 decks. 11%, just over 11% of the decks feature orange or are orange. And I saw quite a few mono oranges yesterday that seem to be doing quite well. Does it surprise you that orange, which is often associated with being a very, very strong supporting color, are you surprised that's the least popular color in these decks?
I think I am a little surprised. Just because I think a lot of players haven't really explored it as much as they should, right? After the recent nerfs that orange has been taking, it's just people don't really want to go out and test it. They think, oh, it's just not worth playing anymore. But the people who have been testing it and experimenting with it, I mean, it has been paying off big time for them. We see quite a few people in the top 8 that did insanely well with orange decks, either mono orange or orange as a supporting color.
Yeah, definitely. And then rounding out the card popularity, as we said, most popular mythics, Magnus and Kara. Most popular rare is Wings of Abaddon. Then we have Demolition Speedway is the most popular uncommon, which again plays into the idea that blue is 25% of decks feature blue or are blue decks. And Daring Trapezist is the most popular common card, which again plays into, it's just a great card. 2-drop, swing to the face for two damage. And then quickly going through the paths and powers, the most popular path by a substantial amount is Rainbow's End. 7 people bringing Rainbow's End along. 7 people featuring decks in the top 8, only 1 person not featuring a Rainbow's End deck. Again, is that something that you think in the current state of the game that stands out to you?
No, and that's one of the things about Conquest. I think people are gonna choose the 3 paths that they think are just simply the strongest, and Rainbow's End is definitely one of those 3.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not to say actually that every single path is featured in a deck in there. There's not a single path has been left out at all. Unfortunately, it's not the same for powers. Mend and Foresight didn't get any love in the tournament, but all the other powers are represented and obviously built into as they are. Now, as we said, this is $1,000 on the line, people, and the prize breakdown goes as first, the top Mythgardian will take home $500. Second place takes home $300, and third place takes home $200. I mean, that's a lot of packs right there. Conveniently, there is a 33% sale on core packs right now, so you can really get your money's worth, right, Wholesome?
Oh yeah, and if I didn't already have both the core set and the expansion set completed, I'd be like, now's my chance to do that. Like, I'd be all over it.
Just get a second account going, mate. Just getting a second account going and get it rolling. But I've heard, guys, the wait is over. You've got your coffees, you've got your drinks, you've got your snacks, your dip, your crisps, your condiments, whatever you want, and we're ready for some absolute amazing Mythgard Open action. So we can go into our first. We can go look at the bracket. Sorry, shall I say? I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. I'm too excited. We can go and have a look at the bracket first and see how yesterday played out. And we can see the top 8 there. Wholesome, run us through the top 8 for us, please, buddy. And yeah, just take us down the order.
I'm gonna start off by saying, if any of y'all are high up on the ladder, on the ranked ladder, you're gonna recognize the majority of these names. Cool Cat is an awesome player. They've been gone for a while, but they just signed up for the tourney and came back hot, man. They're ready to take it. And then Al, also an insane player. They've been tearing up ladder lately, and they have some tournament experience as well under their belt. So no surprise to see them here. Same goes for Bad. They continuously do well on ladder and have done really well in a couple tournaments in the past. And the majority of us know Toonstar. Toonstar has been streaming the game longer than I think anyone else, and they're constantly fighting for that top spot on ladder. And we've seen them do pretty well in tournaments in the past. Hopefully they can do better this time. Petamax is also one of the top ladder players, and I'm really impressed to see them here, because I don't think I've seen them in tournaments before. I could be mistaken. So it's going to be really exciting to see what they bring. Reg is not a very active player, and I don't see them on ladder often, but they have done extremely well in tournaments in the past, and it's no surprise to see them here. I think they are just one of those tournament players that comes out when it's time to take the title. Madaka's an awesome ladder player, and I'm really excited to see what they have. And Mole, also an incredible ladder player, and they've done well in tournaments in the past, and they also might be one of my rivals on ladder. I always enjoy facing up against them. It's always a challenge.
Nice. And it's pretty much split bang down the middle. Well, it's just over. 3 of these players finished with 4 and 2. Cool Cat, Madoka, and Reg finished 4-2 yesterday in the Swiss. And then Bad, Molly, and Petamax. So I always want to say Pentamax, but that's a legal brand. Petamax, Tune, and Al all finished 5 for 1, along with Rune. But as we said, Rune unfortunately isn't here today. But I'll pass over to Reg. forward to. So the first match we're going to be jumping across to, guys, is Cool Cat facing off against Al. Conveniently for you lot, that is at the top of your screen. So you haven't got to worry about where you got to face your eyes there. Keep it at the top. And I think we can jump over to the decks now and see what these guys are running. Now, all decks for the Mythgard Open are brought to you by Mythgard Hub. As we said, every single one of these decks featuring today is available right now for you to go and import your game over on mythgardhub.com. And we're kicking off with Cool Cat's list there. We don't know what they're going to play first. We're going to jump across to the ban screen after decks. But Wholesome, talk us through Cool Cat's deck building and card selection.
I think they've done a great job prepping for this, Woody. They've got two really strong decks with the Colosseum, yellow orange, and the rainbows and mono blue Valkyries. Insanely solid decks that have done really well on ladder. And it's interesting, the red green deck that they've brought is also quite a common color pairing that you see on ladder, and it's dominated for quite a while, but they've built it a little differently than we're used to. So we're just gonna have to hop in the game and see how it's gonna turn out for them. I guess I don't know their record in the Swiss, but I assume that they've done well with it, and that it might just be band fodder.
4-2 was their record in Swiss. They went 4 games, 2 wins. So 4 wins, 2 losses.
Yes, and I wonder how many of those wins came off the back of that RG list. So we're gonna have to see how it plays out. Like, there's just cards in that deck that you don't normally see in that color pairing, right? Maybe multiple seasons ago. So it's really interesting to see how they built it for this tournament.
Yeah, nice. And then we can jump across to You Can Call Me's Owls decks and see what they're bringing. See what what potentially we banned. I know You Can Call Me Owl. You see, went 5-for-1 in Swiss yesterday, bringing a nice kind of more aggressive yellow-red, a green-purple, which I know is a very, very favored color combination of yourself, Wholesome, and then obviously that mono blue list, which, as you said quite rightly earlier, is probably the strongest monocolor kind of in the game right now, and with it being the Conquest form as it is, bringing a monocolor is only advantageous because it opens up more card section, right, for the other selections. But talk us through the red yellow list, because there might be some new players watching and they're kind of thinking about, what do I play? Now, red yellow is actually, it's not too expensive a list, right, but it is hyper effective.
Yeah, it's an incredible deck that I think Medaka popularized recently on ladder, and this list looks different than Medaka's, but it is I have faced this deck again, like Al on this deck on ladder, and I took a whooping. Let me tell you, this deck is scary. You unless you're running insane control, you're gonna have a really hard time with stopping that face damage, because they're just going to be playing as aggro as possible and win before you even get a chance to stabilize or get control of the board or anything.
Yeah, and that Colosseum of Strife pathway brings that extra element to the deck where they're doing face aggro, but when you start putting minions down, they have a benefit by trading into your minions, because obviously they're getting the card draw, they're getting the buff off the card draw as well. So, and you can see the deck doesn't run a single mythic. That's why I say any new players watching it, is a very, very strong deck that is extremely cheap. And again, over mythgardhub.com right now, if you want to import this deck. We can actually jump across now to the ban screen and see what's been banned. We have no idea, so we can jump across now, and we can see mono blue being banned by You Can Call Me Owl, and Corporate choosing to ban the green purple. Anything that kind of jump out to you as a surprise, to Wholesome?
Not really. If I was in Cool Cat's shoes, I would be banning that Spirits deck, the purple green Spirits deck. And no surprise to ban Valkyries. If they get a crazy start, it is going to be really hard to beat them. So taking that out, I think, is a great option. And banning the one aggro deck in their lineup is a smart choice by Al. And they're just going to try and take control of the games with their aggro decks.
Yeah, and then obviously we know how strong that mono blue deck really is. So choosing to
Mhm.
ban that mono blue deck there is again, it's only beneficial. There's a few decks to choose from, obviously, when it comes to ban, and banning isn't just a case of, oh, that's the strongest deck, I will ban it, right? It's a case of, well, my decks are built into this archetype. My decks are built to play like this. Maybe the mono blue deck's a little bit too fast. We know how fast it is, and also if you don't have a board presence there, we know how much movement that deck brings as well with stuff like Bridgeway Troll. So that can be really hard. But I'm pretty sure we are ready to jump into the games now, people. So we're going to jump over to the game right now, and we can get right into the action. And Wholesome, I'm going to ask you to do as I always do, my friend. If you can talk us through the opening hands, buddy.
All right. Al is looking real nice. You really want to see that doper on one. So I'm really liking Al's hand, and Cool Cat is, not doing bad himself. They have their one drop, their two drop. They're going to be able to stabilize that board and reach a later point in the game where they can start really getting value with their higher mana cards.
Yeah, no, exactly that. Exactly that. Dope is a card I definitely overlooked when I first jumped into the expansion. It was a card that I kind of thought, oh, is it a strong card? Isn't it a strong card? But I mean, I've seen turn 4 wins with this, with Insta Beast and the cards like that. It's a very, very strong card. And Cool Cat, as you said, it's that orange there. Sign of Pride's a great kind of mid game card to kind of nullify a threat. We know You Can Call Me Out has no of what we, for lack of a better term, your meaty threats, none of your big boys to come down. But still, there's something there like Sign of Pride is a great way of potentially nullifying a doper, even maybe that gets out of hand.
Yeah,
And
anything that's been buffed up, like that they just, spend a lot of cards and mana into, like you see the guys of Phobos in Owl's hand. Uh, if they start, using a bunch of cards on that doper and just going all in on it, that transform is going to be huge.
yeah, exactly. And Serendipity Eye for it obviously is I think it's a very, very good mid game card. Like divination is I
Mhm.
don't want to say an underutilized keyword, but it is a keyword that is incredibly important. Giving yourself consistency to know what you're going to be pulling in to that mid to late game, setting up a future play is massive. And divination 3, looking at the top 3 cards of your deck, is absolutely huge. We see Doper starting to build up there now, but he's got a little bit of a nasty threat opposing him, a bit of a disgusting spider threat in Venom Fang Mutant sitting there that obviously won't directly kill Doper, but will give the blight. But Doper can, I say, outlive the blight, but it doesn't outlive the blight, but the blight does take longer to get rid of Doper, right? Because they can keep kind of giving the +1 health.
Yeah, and then you're gonna be losing your attack, right? If you're trying to, using the +1 on the health, you're gonna end up, just losing all your damage. So I think that's the right play. Al just, buffs it up and takes it out in one go, and that's just a 1 for 1. And they're completely happy with that.
Yeah,
And
no,
Cool
definitely.
Cat top decks another. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be interesting. Let's see if they play it.
Yeah, Venom. I mean, Venom Fang Mutant is the reason that it's so good, especially in this matchup here, is it doesn't have to be a huge body. Having that status given to a card in Blight, when most of your minions don't really go above 4 health without buffs played from other cards, it's no, I don't want to say devastating, but it's very strong against this red yellow deck.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be crazy watching this game right now because they're both on Coliseum and they're both playing some pretty crazy HP and damage units. So it's just gonna be a bloodbath on the board here with these exchanges.
Knowing how the Cool Cat is running the yellow with the orange and more of a kind of a mid-range deck, for lack of a better term. We know You Can Call Me Out is quite aggressive. Do you feel,
Mhm.
because yellow does offer an incredibly strong late game threat? I mean, we know for a fact in this deck we've got Sapo, Armageddon Angel, both twins, Miasma Catalyst, Herald of Pestilence, so Leah, which obviously is not a huge threat, but still stays on the board, can be rather irritating, shall we say. Do you think the longer this game goes on, the more it plays into Cool Cat's hands and he can kind of, or sorry, they can kind of nullify the threat from You Can Call Me Out?
Exactly. And I think they got really really lucky when it comes to their starting hand, and like you can see that they just only have low mana cost cards, and they have turn one plays, they have turn two plays, they have multiple decisions to make, and they didn't draw any of those 7 mana, cards in their hand, so it's not going to be too big of an issue. But
Yeah.
they're going to start, getting those good trades going, with those combat tricks like hysterical strength. So, and then they're going to be getting more Coliseum stacks than Cool Cat.
Yeah, and Hysterical Strength's a card that oddly we didn't see huge amounts of it in the core set, but with the expansion, it's now starting to
Mhm.
these decks of kind of buffing into one card. The reason it's so big is when the status goes from it on Sundown, which is the new keyword to represent the end of turn, that you won't die. So even if your health is go low, you won't die. You'll always remain with one health. And knowing that You Can Call Me Al's minions are significantly lower in like stat line power than what the yellow orange offer. Being able to trade into them with that Colosseum of Strife and then still stay on the board, even with just one health, is really important for what the deck's trying to do.
Yep. And this is a insane card that Cool Cat just played, Jaza. And this card is going to be so hard for Al to deal with. This is one of the greatest cards, I think, against aggro decks. Not only is it a 4/3, but when it dies, its demise effect is that it gets replaced with a Parse of Divinity Cannon, which is a 2/6.
Yeah,
So they're going to
and
have a
and
hard time dealing with that.
and the stat line on the Pass Divinity Cannon is obviously you can rather than attack, and you can use the action to do 2 damage to all cards that threaten that, meaning in your opposing 3 lanes. And now that wouldn't sound
Mhm.
like much, but when you're playing a deck that a lot of these minions have low health, we can see straight away the Trapezius is on 1 health right now, and we can also see that the Trained Jaguar is also only on 2 health. That would potentially remove those minions just at 2 damage. That's how strong it can be
Yep.
against this deck. One card I really want to point out, and I jumped into a couple of games yesterday in the Swiss, and Perennial Patrol really earned its value yesterday in the more against the more aggressive decks. Dropping a single card that will cover 3 lanes, it's huge for slowing down the decks and give that forge ability as well. Means the Slayer 2 means it trades into, I don't want to say almost anything, but especially in the aggro decks, it trades into a lot.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's gonna be like a 3 for 3. It's not gonna be, oh, let me just play this one big dude across from the Tyrannial Patrol, and it'll take care of all three of these tokens. The middle card, and then the two tokens. No, like one of those tokens will take out whatever you play, because of that Slayer 2. It's got insane, uh, board presence.
Yep. Now, although the stat line on there right now on the Trainer Patrol is showing 0, 1, 0 in terms of attack, they would still remove the Jaguar because the Phobos on the Jaguar means that it gives -2 in any lanes threatened. But with the Slayer 2 means that the stat line doesn't show now. But if Jaguar was to trade into any one of those Trainer Patrols, it would remove because the 2 damage would still trade. Which now obviously it could find lane 3 as we're looking at the board to swing into. That 6 damage. Insta Beast on there, 10 damage. And we can see right now we're going to probably get the Hysterical Strength. Maybe no, we're not going to get Hysterical Strength to come down. But we're going to see 10 damage there. It does have the Lurker ability, meaning that lane 5, as we're looking at the board, can still trade into the Jaguar, but it wouldn't remove the Jaguar with that Insta Beast buffs on there. And we now see Lethal on the board, right, for You Can Call Me Out.
Yes, we do.
Is there any way
Uh,
out of this for Cool Cat?
Yeah, I think so. If they can find a way to deal with that Jaguar and then, clog up all the lanes. So Al's deck is running something like Volition. So you got to be worried about that, damage from hand, right? Rush and then buffs and damage from hand. But it doesn't look like they were able to find any.
Yeah, no, this is, I don't want to say the issue, but this is, every deck has balance, of course. I mean, Thanos would be very proud of any deck because it's perfectly balanced. But with the red-yellow deck, that you're running a lot of these buff spells, effectively, the ones that kind of you play on cards to give them buffs. If as Yugomi's Owl's hands get smaller and smaller and smaller, top decking a buff spell when maybe there's only 1 minion on the board, that's when it can start playing against itself, right? That's when it can start being very slow when you're not having minions to actually play. And we can see now the board state from Cool Cat is it's not intimidating because there's no real big fretty stuff on there, but there are 6 minions to 1, which is intimidating in its own right.
Yeah, and if they like yeah, if they basically your deck doesn't cooperate, if your opponent has too many answers, then this is kind of like an all-in aggro deck. And if you got to kind of get lucky, right? And it's a little bit of a cheese strat. So sometimes it's just straight up not going to work out.
Yeah, and we see Dopa coming down there, smack bang in middle lane and going to a 2-1, giving a little bit of protection to that Jaguar, which does have Swift, meaning that it can take a move action as well as attack each turn. The Venom Fang Mutant opening up there is potentially another blocker. That's what Cool Cat's kind of trying to find right now, isn't it? Just blockers. Plug these lanes. There's no overrun. We can only see Hysterical Strength in hand at the moment. You Can Call Me Out is desperately trying to find an open lane, trying to find something to swing through with that buffed up Jaguar that has the Geyser Phobos on it, that has the Insta Beast on it, that has been of a circus a little bit too long, is a little bit too peeved off, has got pretty beastie in its own right. Seal of Exile to top. That is huge, right? Because we can see You Can Call Me Out's hand, double Hysterical Strength, no lane to get through. Seal of Exile opens up the lanes, gets rid of that Geyser Phobos, and offers lethal, correct?
Yep. I mean, this is really bad. I mean, I don't know how else to put this. Top decking another Hysterical Strength after having one in hand that was pretty much unplayable. Like, you don't need the extra damage here. All you need is another rush minion or a volition. Any way to open up one of those lanes since you have agile. All you have to do is just open one lane and then it's your game. But
that's it.
Yeah. And then, Cool Cat draws the Seal of Exile off of the Coliseum proc after reaching 3 energy. And this is looking real bad for Al here.
Yeah, and that's exactly, I don't want to say as we called it because it's going to come across like, we know everything as casters. But it's as the game goes on, as we're getting into turn 6, turn 7, that it's getting into that. It's playing more into Cool Cat's hands. You Can Call Me Out, realizing there's not much you can do there and just taking a trade as it goes in, not taking any damage, obviously, because the guys are Phobos. Seal of Exile is going to come down, though, and get rid of that card, which is going to open up just enough damage to get through and perfectly calculate lethal for Cool Cat. Now, that means that Cool Cat cannot play this yellow-orange list again. They must choose the other list, which wasn't banned. But a losing deck, so the red-yellow deck of You Can Call Me Out, can play another game. It's only when you win with the deck, you're not allowed to play with it again.
Yep. So we're hopefully going to see Al run this yellow-red deck back again. Because I think the red-green deck is a little better against Al's Valkyries list. So hopefully their yellow-red deck will cooperate this time.
Yes, no, definitely. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. As you said, the green-red list is very strong, right? And you said there's some slight tweaks to it that Cool Cat made. Cool Cat going into next game 1-up, quite slightly on the front foot, shall we say, going in with that red-green list. Doesn't have to necessarily be, not say as aggressive, but just play their game plan and if fate be with the cards, and maybe they can pull out a victory there. So you expect You Can Call Me Out to bring the same list, or do you think he's going to go with his mono blue? What would you expect him to go now? Stay with his red yellow, or go with the mono blue?
If I were in their position, I would just want to get my win with the yellow red deck. I'm not gonna, I guess it's all up to personal preference, right? If Al is just like, okay, I need a break from that was kind of tilting. Let me just play my mono blue Valkyries. But yeah, it looks like they queued up the yellow red once again.
Okay, so yellow red, we're jumping into the game right now, and we can see Cool Cat obviously bringing the deck that wasn't banned. Very, very heavy on the red side, though. Very little green to get burning. Do you think that could come back to bite them a little bit? Meaning that something like as they go into it more, maybe we know Chalk Stag, Tradesman are all free green gems. They need to find some green cards, right, going into that more late game.
For sure, and that's one thing that I said about Cool Cat's red green deck not being standard is so like the Anheli in his hand is completely not usable. They're gonna need to burn it turn two. Um, I wouldn't be burning the Faded Firebird here.
No, no. Faith Firebird is a very. I say I really like the card. So on its demise ability, which is obviously when it dies, you lose 2 life, but the minion comes back to your hand. It's a 5/4 agile. It's a really nice stat line there. And Scoria Pup coming out wide, just again to kind of absorb some of this damage. Cool Cat's obviously just played against a red yellow list, and they know that this red yellow list is very, very aggressive. They also
Mhm.
know that if you can call me out, get blitzes through the minions, use up the minions, they know that they can end up not having minions in hand. We can already see that only 50% of the hand are actually minions, the rest are buff spells. The I don't want to say the green red is as good as the orange yellow for dealing with those, as it doesn't really have much spot removal. The Anheli obviously does put something back into the deck, but it does.
Which is really good against, minions that have been buffed, right?
Oh,
So they
huge because it
lose.
removes the
Yeah,
buff. Yeah,
exactly. So
but what I was going to say is the green plays more into rather than spot removing, just deal with this really big minion, and that's a card. I mean, Magmatar is a card that could be pivotal in this match, correct?
oh, yeah. If Al ends up going wide for any reason and isn't just, stacking all the buffs on one, then Magmatar is definitely gonna be seeing some value. Um, I don't think it's a big deal that Al played into a Magmatar here on turn 3, especially because the Jaguar has Swift,
Yep.
so shouldn't be too much of an issue.
And Coolcat taking an interesting decision to go out wide and obviously kind of mirror the play of You Can Call Me Out. They're both playing decks that lean on the aggressive side. I would say You Can Call Me Out is more aggressive. Coolcat's being more mid-range aggressive, obviously having those that kind of hefty late game presence. But putting this Degory Pup out wide signifies what Coolcat's intention is, saying that like you're going to play wide, I'm going to play wide. We can see the hand size, obviously slight advantage to Coolcat so far. But You Can Call Me Out is on 2 procs of the Colosseum. One more minion trader, as in they was to choose to trade the Jaguar in maybe give
Mhm.
it Insta Beast to remove the Stagori Pup. They would be drawing a card at the end of this turn, and obviously if it was a minion, it would be buff +1/+1, which could be, as I've seen many times on ladder, very pivotal as matches go on.
Yep, it definitely makes a difference, especially when it comes in the form of a rush minion.
Mm. Yeah, hugely effective.
But I will say though, Woody, is that Cool Cat, I I said it last game and I'll say it again, and they are getting pretty darn lucky with their draws. They only have 4 1 drops in their deck, and they had all 3 in the first 2 or 3 turns. Which is I mean, talk I don't know the stats on that, but that is some pro playing right there. I would love to see that in all my games, and
Yeah,
it means so much more right now in a tournament. So
I mean,
this is looking really good for Cool Cat.
how big is this going to be? We see the trained Jaguar coming out off of the prop from Colosseum of Strife. So that's going to have the +1/+1. Now, why is that so important? Because it has the agile and the swift. And we saw the trained Jaguar last game with those buffs on it can be very tricky to deal with. And we also got the Volition in hand. Obviously, life total for Cool Cat is far too safe at the moment to be even mentioning any kind of lethal, but the Volition in hand last game is potentially what could have won the game for You Can Call Me Out. So seeing it here now, obviously it's early, still potentially burning it to open up the mana pool. It's nice to know that they are maybe getting a little bit more luck on their card pools.
Yeah, I think they're in a little bit of a better spot, but this Jaguar does not have agile, as you said, Woody. That was coming from the guys
Of
of
course, the
Phobos.
guys at Phobos, yes.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Al is probably just gonna have to, attack straight into the Faded Firebird here.
Yes, which would remove it because they're fragile. Currently,
And
for
the
current
focus
season.
one from the Ultra Gym.
Yeah, so which would
So
obviously play into it, but it would. I mean, maybe potentially the Insta Beast gets played on top of it to buff it to keep it alive. But then the health it be left at, there is a Magmatar in Coolgat's hands. So if Insta Beast is played onto the Trained Jaguar, if it trades into the Fated Firebird, the Magmatar will still remove it afterwards.
yeah, I'm not sure. That doesn't seem like the best play. Yeah, I think just develop another Jaguar, especially one that's been buffed by Coliseum.
Yes, definitely. And we saw, as we said, how strong it is now. That kind of lonely Stigori pup out wide for Coolcat, showing the intention early to be aggressive is all good, but at the moment they need to start plugging up these lanes. The Insta Beast in hand potentially offers 8 damage from that Jaguar, potentially 9 if the lane stays clean with the focus. But you'd imagine that Coolcat will be putting something in lanes 2 or 3 to be there. You go lane 2 to block up that damage there. Now they are taking damage every time this Fated Firebird does die. They are taking 2 damage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but again, in a deck that does a lot of damage to face very quickly, very kind of spell tempo heavy, 2 damage, chip damage over time can really pay up against you.
Hmm. But I still don't think Cool Cat is it has anything to be worried about here. I mean, they're just super cool. They have an uncontested pup on the other side of the board, and they have a recurring minion in the form of a faded Firebird that is just going to keep forcing Al to take these trades. Um, so I mean, Al's deck just doesn't have any way to deal with a recurring threat like this, right?
No.
So this is going as good as it can go for Cool Cat here. Let's
Yeah,
see if Al can pull off any miracles.
definitely. And we see the Serapis has potential to offer another recurring minion. If the charge is built up enough, he give a minion demise, return to play in the same lane with Ephemeral. And we've seen recently in the top 5 September play video, some people getting some very spicy plays with that Serapis free charge ability. Another Magmatar in hand. Now, the Trained Jaguar is just outside of Magmatar kind of lethal damage, shall we say, but still putting it at 1 health is pretty devastating for You Can Call Me Out, pulling out the Panic Raid off the top, which is nice for a bit of card draw, but they still have the life effective, like life total advantage at the moment. But Seven
I
Ring
mean,
Ritual, Magnetar, and the Fated Firebird in hand, it is starting to paint a bit more of a Cool Cat picture at the moment.
for sure. And this is a really awkward scenario. So you have to use the Panic Raider to kind of clear the way for your Jaguar here, and that's what Al does. There's no way you can, even though it has Swift, if it leaves that enchantment, it's dead because that's why you can see the 1 health is glowing purple right now. It's
Yeah,
on life support by that Ultra Gym.
exactly. Many times I've been there, on life support or at the gym, but it's all good. And we can see, unless the Magmatar's played, if that Trained Jaguar does stay around, we'll see now. So, there you go. Darren Tapi's going to come down to get rid of it. As I say, otherwise, I mean, Cool Cat will know this. They're a far better player than I am, but they all know that a Geyser Phobos off the top, obviously, with a Volition, would have posed lethal. And that's the kind of instant, almost OTK kind of damage that this red-yellow can put out.
Yep. And it's not looking great for Al. You've only got 2 pups in hand, no buffs to kind of, play a pup and then let's say play your Insta Beast on top of it to get it to a good stat lines to where it can just, contest any of these minions. Um, what they're going to end up doing is having to trade here, right? And they have no way to keep any minions on the board as it is.
Yeah, and that's exactly as we said last time that the if the steam starts to disappear, the I mean it's the risk you pose with any deck, no matter what your whatever card game it be, any deck that plays into a minions being buffed on the board is going to pose a threat of if those minions get removed, you lose all your steam, you lose all your tempo, and you've got to rebuild again and again and again. And the red yellow minions of the You Can Call Me Out deck don't pose a threat on their own, right? So that's where the situation we're in now. The Stigori pups are 2/1s. or sorry, 3-2 because of the Colosseum Strife, or
Coliseum,
2-1
yeah.
base. But then all of a sudden you put an insta beast on that, make it a 5-4. Well, 5-4 life tap's huge, and Magnetar coming down to do exactly what Magnetar does on a daily basis, and we've all been there, and get rid of those. Fragile is going to mean that Trapezis can trade into one of those, but that's not going to be enough. There's still a 5-4 on the board because they can't remove the 5-4, and the pup life tap, the Magnetar, it's not looking good for You Can Call Me Out at this situation.
Not at all. I think they're just holding on for dear life here and hoping that they can pull something off.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest threat in terms of solo card or single card they have in their deck is a Wings of Abaddon, which is obviously 4 damage to the face with Rush. But 4 damage to the face right now is little more than a tickle, right? Like, Cool Cat can take several 4 damage to the face and laugh back at them. But what's more important now, what's really important now, is that You Can Call Me Out needs to pull a minion off the top. No minion off the top, and we mean it's pretty much, well, it's Cool Cat's just confirmed it. You don't find a minion next turn, I win.
Yeah,
And there we go. Volition off the top, and we see You Can Call Me Out. Unfortunately, not finding that minion, and Cool Cat taking this first series or the first quarterfinal 2-1. That was a very nice display. I mean, you can say what you want about card draw and not finding cards and all that, but Cool Cat played what they need to play at the right time and played the matchup very, very well. Correct?
Yes, and they held on to the right cards they needed. They burned what they didn't need. They played it extremely well with what they were given, and it shows they had complete control of that game.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, we're not going to question anyone's decision by any means, but just in hindsight, do you think You Can Call Me Out would be thinking maybe I should have brought the mono blue deck to that matchup? Give me a chance to kind of take a breather from that aggro list and then go back to it afterwards?
I mean, it's really up to the player. So if you're a person who tends to tilt and you kind of could use those breaks from certain decks, I'm personally of the belief that you stick with the deck. You know, you ride it through the highs and lows, and it'll pay off, right? And don't just kind of drop a deck as soon as it starts doing bad. But
yeah. As you said, it's completely preference, right? It's complete preference. Mm-hmm. It's easy to turn around and say, hey, in hindsight, I would do this or I would do this. So it's easy to say that because hindsight's a wonderful thing. But at the end of the day, as you said, sometimes bringing the same deck again, having a warm up with it, bringing the same deck again, it plays out well for you. It can pose its benefits. But unfortunately, in this situation, Cool Cat just found all the right answers at the right time, made the right decisions, and won the series 2-0. Now we are, I didn't actually say this at the beginning, the way the format's going to work for this stream, guys, we are covering 2 of the quarterfinals. So we've still got another quarterfinal to go. We're going to be taking a little break for you guys. We're going to give you a chance to go grab a little refreshment break, shall we say. We're going to come back, we're going to run through both semi-finals and obviously the big one, the final, the matchup at the end. And that will be what we're covering today. Once again, all decks today are brought to you by Mythgard Hub. They're available right now over there, and all production is done by 983 Media. So, next matchup. I mean, So, the next matchup we're going to go across to is Petamax and Reg. We spoke about Reg beforehand, bringing a very gutsy decision to bring 2. Can you imagine 3 tricolors? That would be all absolute guts. But 2 tricolor decks to the list. And we're going to go across now and we're going to go check out Reg's very interesting deck list, shall we? So, Wholesome, take us through these. 1 second on that. But I'm interested to see, as you said, Reg teched into, rather than bringing along or modifying competitive decks, they kind of went the opposite route of what's a competitive deck? How do I build against it?
Exactly. And I think they were completely prepared for it, and they read the field real well. As soon as we get into the decks, you'll see why. It's actually incredible, and you don't see this happen too often in Mythgard tournaments, right? You see people just playing the meta decks and altering those decks. You don't see people really going out there. It has happened in the past, but it is not the norm. And I'm glad to see it working out for Reg.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely, and their opponent, as you said, is no pushover. Petamax, as you said, is an incredibly strong ladder player, very, very highly regarded Mythguardian, shall we say?
Indeed.
And so we Reg went for 4 for 2 yesterday in the Swiss rounds. Petamax went 5 for 1. Didn't bring any tricolor decks, just all dual decks. It's going to be an exciting matchup.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I'm really excited to see these two decks face or these six decks face off. We'll see what happens, what gets banned, and yeah, I'm so excited, especially for Petamax because they're the only person that brought a purple green reanimator, and
It's
that is
close to your
one of
heart,
my
right?
all-time favorite decks.
It's close to your heart. It really is.
It
So
really
when it comes to the ban phase, obviously, again, we are going to bring the decks very, very soon, guys. The when it comes to ban phase, so we're gonna head across to. I think we can head across to the decks now. We're gonna head across to Petamax's decks first. So I mean, it makes sense to ask Wholesome to talk us through the Discus Cardia, the Reanimator, the Green Purple, the literally Wholesome's blood flows through this deck. Talk us through this deck, buddy.
I mean, they've done some pretty cool things to the deck. Really teching for some aggro matchups, and then also able to go late game with night markets, right? And just getting insane value and just repeatedly flipping disc and smiting the opponent. Um, and then they've got the burn damage with Call from the Grave, so they can really close out games out of nowhere with all this amount of damage. And their yellow blue deck is one that I would be banning personally. I would not want to go against this deck. There's a card in there that you don't normally see people play, and that's Maelstrom. That 3 mana enchantment that just does damage even to your side of the board. Um, and it's really interesting to see. But if this yellow blue deck, if you can't kill them real quick, you are going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Exoamara Earthshaper was one of those cards that came in the most recent expansion, Rings of Immortality, that added like a cherry on the top, shall we say, to this blue yellow enchantment deck. It's a very, very good card I find in this list. And we can see it there present, the 6-drop two yellow gem card. It's yeah, like you said, that deck. I mean, the Maelstrom's a wonderful addition, as you said, very rarely seen. Does damage both sides of the board. And then the more aggro deck, shall we say, the Journey of Souls, the red orange, infused power list at the end to kind of if there's a list that maybe plays slower, because obviously bannings are all part of it, but then the other question or the other decision that these players have to take is, well, what's my opponent going to bring? Like maybe if they're playing a slower list, I want to bring my red orange Journey of Souls deck because I know it's faster. I can potentially play under them, which is going to be
yeah,
very
and they
interesting.
can outvalue them late too. Red orange has just been that classic combo pairing that just can outvalue most other decks, especially with Journey of Souls. Late game, you start getting back those really nice mythics in your deck, and it becomes too much to handle.
Yeah, and we know which we're going to jump across to right now to Reg's list. Now, some of these are slightly slower. Like I'm going to say, Fire's Creation is a slow list, but it is by design slightly slower than, say, a Journey of Souls kind of red orange list.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying, but just talk us through. I mean, just at the Fire's Creation, a Splash of Llama's Kiss and a Splash of Pseudonomicon, a card that I think is an incredibly strong card. Tutoring is something that is very rare in Mythgard as a game. Pseudonomicon is pretty much the only tutoring card available, and splashing Llama's Kiss in there, which is obviously a nice card buff card, to then find that burn to offer the Pseudonomicon, bringing consistency to a mid to late game is huge. But talk us through these lists, Wholesome. They are very, very interesting.
All right, we'll start off with the Fires of Creation one that you were talking about. Yeah, that deck is just insane. It's your, kind of uh, average purple green mid range deck, but it's really utilizing the auto cams, and then getting those free forgelings off of the artifacts, right? and then it's got the spirits package with the Gloombringers and the Leshies and Night Hags. It's a really cool looking list, and I think it's definitely teched against other spirit decks as well. I think it'll do really good against all of them and just kind of outvalue them.
Yeah, no,
And then
definitely.
the yellow orange list is awesome. I love seeing a splash of green in this. It's it's going to be able to unlock an insane board wipe with by adding Ruslan's Bite, giving Plague Maiden's armor. You can just easily wipe the board, and just having the Bite and the Plague Maidens is such a cool addition to this deck, and that's something that yellow green usually gets, and that yellow orange doesn't. So just splashing those couple cards in there for it is a great call in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, just the yellow cards, all the highlight show reel of the yellow cards you want to see, the Wonder Drugs, the Misanthropias, the Twins, the Sappos. I mean, even you can argue Tangle Skin. It's all there. They're incredibly, incredibly strong cards. Then combine that with, like you said, the potential of a Plague Maidens. I mean, I get infuriated with Plague Maidens. I'm going to be honest, it's one of my least favorite cards in the game, not because there's anything wrong with it. I just get very, very salty when that comes down and it gets a board wipe. But it is an incredibly strong card, and it's a very nice tech that, hey, someone's running potentially more of an aggro deck, as we saw potentially what You Can Call Me Owl's running. If they don't get the buffs on the cards, there's lots of 1 and 2 health minions. A Plague Maiden literally doesn't deal with them, it just destroys them.
I mean, not only that, but you get to do insane things like activate your double effect off of Wonder Drug by damaging yourself. It's incredible.
Yes, I
And
mean,
then the blue purple deck is an awesome deck that we've seen before, and I think is going to go really well for them.
yeah, so let's jump across the bans and see what on earth has Petamax decided to ban here? Like, what do you choose? And Petamax has gone with the yellow, green, orange list. The one we were just talking about, probably saw Plague Maidens and thought, Woody doesn't like Plague Maidens, I'm going to ban it. So thank you, Petamax. But no, in all seriousness, and then Red's choosing to ban, as you said, the blue-yellow enchantment list, which is very, very strong. So we're going to see the decks up for grabs. For Reg is the tricolor, or the kind of spirit green purple deck with a splash of red, and that blue purple enchantment deck. And then for Petamax, we have the classic, more kind of Discus Arcadia green purple with a few techs in there, and that Journey of Souls red orange list. And we can pretty much jump across to the game right now and get involved with what is going on in the Petamax versus Reg game. Wholesome, why don't you talk us through these opening hands, my friend?
All right. It's looking really nice for Petamax. They have y- oh, okay. So they're both playing their purple green lists. It's going to be really nice for Reg though with their Lamia's Kiss Splash and Pseudonomicon. These starting hands are looking real good. The fact that Reg has the Leshy, if both players start swarming the board, Reg is more passive. But if Petamax starts swarming the board, that Lesh is going to get insane value.
I mean, not only that, Leshy, the balance. The balance is a card you very rarely
Oh
see
yeah.
played. But people don't know balance draws a card for every minion your opponent has on the board. So they got 5 minions out. It's a 3 mana, 2 gem, 5 card draw. It doesn't get huge player competitive level, mostly because the inconsistency the cards bring. If it's the only card you got in hand and your opponent's got no minions on the board, then you don't draw anything. So it is inconsistent, but in the right matchup, and potentially this could be the right matchup. It could prove really important for Reg. Obviously, Reg running the Fires of Creation, which is vastly different to Discus Arcadia, playing into that artifact more kind of archetype. And Gloombringer is seeing that in hand early doors is pretty nice. One, it's an artifact, so he's going to get a Forgeling off the top with it, but also it's we saw there's some nice spirits running in the deck. Obviously, Lesher Green is being a spirit themselves. It offers again that tutoring that also Pseudonomicon offers in the deck.
Oh yeah. It's going to be really nice as soon as they get the Gloombringer down, and you're going to get so much value off of that. It usually doesn't whiff. You're almost always going to find a spirit. So let's hope that the RNG gods are with them.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And then Red's deciding to play a little bit slower now. Like you said, playing that more passive kind of bringing the Night Hag down. Slayer is active on both sides, due to it being daytime on Discus Cardia. But that Canine Handler isn't going anywhere anytime soon. They are stunned until that Night Hag leaves play. Now, the Canine Handler has been forged. So if they choose to play it, they are going to be drawing another Canine card off of the list as well, out of the deck as well. But as obviously Petamax will know if they start swamping this board, if they start spamming this board out too much, then that Leshy Green really starts kind of getting better and better and better.
Yeah, and that's one of the beauties of the Night Hag, right? Is you're not clearing the board, you're not answering the board, but in a way you are, right? You're just adding a body and stunning another body. So it gives the Leshy value, it gives balance value. So it's a really smart card to play in this type of deck.
Yes, and we see that Petamax does have Short Stag at the bottom of their boneyard, meaning that if this Hopeless Necromantic was to trade into anything, was to die, then as long as it isn't banished, then hey ho, Short Stag is coming to the party, and an 8/8 overrun coming to the party on turn 4 is not something Reg wants to see anytime soon.
Oh yeah. And it looks like Reg has an opportunity to play an auto cam here, and perfect, they do. So getting that auto cam out while there isn't too much damage on the board right now is a great call. And if they can start playing some of those spells, they're just going to start getting insane value between that and the gloom.
Yes, because the discus card obviously requires you to discard a card. You do get to draw a card as well, but discus card, I don't want to say it struggles with having a sizable hand, but it as the game goes on, it can end up being that way, right? You can end up, if you don't get your reanimation going, you can end up struggling to find an actual kind of, like I said, a sizable hand almost. So having that autocam there to give that draw, and we see they found that red gem, so if a Pseudomicon comes out, they do have the now to find that. But is that something, do you think, that could play in the longer the game goes? Reg having that card draw and that tutoring ability.
I mean, Petamax has, disc, so they can keep flipping and gaining a card every 2 turns. The thing is, it's going to be a lot more than that if they end up finding some night markets. If you get a couple night markets on the board and you start, getting the ramens off of them, you're going to be able to really keep your hand full and just keep flipping constantly. And not only are you flipping and drawing, but you're getting that divination with it. So you're going to be able to find most likely the answers you need. And one thing to note is that they're playing the handlers as well. So they're going to be thinning their deck, and that's going to be tutoring the canines for them. So they can actually burn Vixen and play handler and get Vixen back.
Yes. Yes, of course, because Vixen is, hey, a spirit canine. Something that I actually found out recently, that is a canine card. I honestly didn't know about. Hotel Barkeep, again, it's going to bring that item to hand. It's a very, very powerful item in this list, giving you a free power action, shall we say. So it means they can pop the smite twice per turn, potentially. But the second time, even nicer, they don't have to pay the 2 mana on it. Slayer's still active on the board because Day is up on the Discus Cardia. And we know that these Hopeless Necromatics are pulling out that Chalked Stag at the bottom, that 8/8 card. Now, they won't be putting both out because Chalked Stag, well, it depends how they swing into it. Chalked Stag's also stat line is may return a minion from your boneyard to your hand. If they were to do that with Canine Handler, then, well, they could do that with Canine Handler, then potentially the next Hopeless Necromantic could bring back its other Hopeless Necromantic friend. It's all kind of getting a bit Inception like there, right? Kind of diving a Hopeless Necromantic inside a Hopeless Necromantic. But there we see it. There we see it. A turn 5, Short Stag coming down, bringing back Canine Handler, and then that Hopeless Necromantic, when it does trade or die, it will bring back, hey, another Hopeless Necromantic, which will obviously then bring back something else, because it isn't ephemeral until it comes out of the boneyard. Hotel Barkeep coming down, bringing that powerful ramen out there, and then now we can start seeing Petamax saying, hey, look, it's been going a bit too slow so far. I'm going to just cover the board. I've got an 8/8 overrun out nice and wide. Can I handle it? It might only be a 2-2, but chipping away 2 damage each time, not only is it going to do damage to Reg, it's going to start chipping away at those artifacts. And that card draw artifact is I don't say huge, but any time of card draw in any card game is very, very important.
Hmm. And it's really interesting here. Let's see what Reg is going to do. I think they're going to have to use the Night Hag to stop the short stag. Okay, they decide to murmur without playing that informant. I'm surprised that they went for that because most of these green purple lists do run detained and deported in their own murmur. So just going for that without any information on your opponent's hand is a little ballsy. Um,
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely. And we can see, I mean, Pertamax has the murmur in hand, but they don't have the detained or the deport there, but they do have the murmur if they want to go, hey, that's my AA stag, which is exactly what they do. Back you come over here, my friend. I'm really playing, like throwing that pressure down. We did say that Reggie's deck is potentially slightly slower with the fires of creation, but they haven't got an issue with hand size. They have a huge hand, but at the moment, the board presence is just too much. And there's nothing in this list that wipes a board. There's not even a Judas Hex in this list to offer that option to potentially wipe a board. It is just a case of we need to try and stabilize as quick as we possibly can. Otherwise, this damage coming through is going to mean that it's currently on a 3-turn timer.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to talk to these players and find out why they wouldn't want to run Judas Hex in either of their lists. To me, it just seems like a crazy good card, especially if you're running Defy Death.
Which Reg is running the Defy Death. Sorry, no, Pentamax is
Correct.
running the Defy Death. Reg isn't running the Defy Death. So
Mhm.
Pentamax is running the Defy Death, which is a very obviously, as you said, you can. I've seen many. I don't want to say meme because that makes it sound like it's not a serious play. It's a very competitive play, but it is a little bit memey when you kind of set it up. You go, "Hey, come and kill me." They don't. Defy Death comes out, and all of a sudden they die because they don't take damage. I've seen a Tune Star clip who's also featuring in this tournament where they basically done 21 damage to their opponent because the 7 ring ritual came down. They played Judas Hex. They had Defy Death in hand. They swung through, and they died. The 7 minions and done the 21 damage,
Yep.
and Tombstone won. And it's very, very strong. But yeah, you're right. Again, not criticizing players whatsoever. These guys are. There's a reason they're in the top 8, and we're casting. But yeah, Judas Hex is a card that I think would fit definitely in Pentamax's deck with the Defy Death. We can see he does have the perfect grade, the burn perfect grade, and we know just how strong that card can be. The 4 damage to minion would remove the Night Hag, which would then open up the 8/8 short stag again. And Reg only being on 15 health, it's starting to get to a kind of bit of a doomsday clock, shall we say?
Hmm. This is a big issue, but one thing that Reg can do to kind of slow down that short stag is they can use the pentacle flavors and do the 5 blast on it,
I mean,
which
yeah, I mean that would remove the hopeless necromantic, which would bring back another hopeless necromantic. But like you said, yeah, it would end up doing the 5 damage. It wouldn't actually kill the Night Hag, so the Night Hag would
it,
still be alive.
yeah,
Um, and their own
I
short stack coming down now wide. 8/8, and they're going to pull back another Night Hag from the Boneyard, which makes sense. It's kind of controlling that board state. Leshy Green currently sat at a 7/7 if it was to play because it does buff itself. But it'll be interesting to see now what Pentamax does. They can, obviously, I mean, they can burn a card. They could probably burn, well, the only card they can burn is Kutorsu. They can play the perfect grade if
correct.
they want to. They open up a lane 1 and 2 by doing the 4 damage to the Night Hag, which then poses 10 damage on its own out in lane 1. But it doesn't instantly deal with the short stag on the opposite side of the board out in lane 7.
Yeah, and Reg is really going to need to hope that this short stack stays alive here because they just need that Lamia's kiss on it so they can start regaining their life total. We see Peter Max's hand and they've got Iku and perfect grade and they've got threats on threats ready to come down. And we know Reg doesn't have any kind of board clear. Those colors, don't really have anything, which is why we were saying Judas Hex is such a good card for these types of decks.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, you say if it stays live, there's nothing in Peter Max's hand that is going to kill it this turn. And obviously, the Llama's Kiss will proc because the overrun. Oh well, there you go. There is actually something that can kill it in his hand. My bad. Trade into the Canine Handler, 2 damage. Sorry, 4
Yep.
damage, then 2 damage, and that will clear the lane there. So interesting to see that Peter Max values the controlling the board state in lane 7 over being aggressive in lane 1 and 2.
I think that's the smart play to do, right? Is because, like I was saying, the only chance Reg has is to, develop something big that you'd be able to put any life tap ability on it, and trying to get your life total back up and back into the game, right? And Reg knows that they can just wait, another turn and have that short stag awakened from dealing with the night hag. So they're not in any rush. So they might as well just deal with the short stag right now and keep Reg, on the back foot and not able uh, to regain that life total.
Yes, no, exactly. This is exactly as you said earlier. Pentacle Favors coming down. It's going to, I assume, trade into the Hopeless Necromantic, which would obviously kill it. It would do 5 blast damage to short stag, at least 4 floating mana, potentially block a Lame of Stag. Another Night Hag coming down over here. Makes sense on the perfect grade, because we know that card, if it starts snowballing, that card can be extremely strong. There's a reason it costs 8 mana, because just how powerful it is. Night Hag taking the trade there. Removing the Hopeless Necromantic there with that. With the Pentacle of Flavors, I completely lost my thought process then. And also the regen and the armor means that the Necromantic training into it won't kill it, so it can still potentially remove the short stag again next turn. Hotel Barkeep is the card that would come off the. It wouldn't come off the Hopeless Necromantic, would it? Because it's. It would. Yeah, so
it would.
It would come off the Hopeless Necromantic. I was getting confused with Ephemeral, but don't worry about me. Ignore Woody. It's the best thing you can do in life. That is life advice to you people. Ignore Woody.
And Peter Max is, top decks that Samuzin, which is actually pretty awesome here. You'd think a 1 mana card wouldn't be that good this late, but and they get another one. So they're going to be able to nullify all that blast damage on their short stag by healing it up with these Samuzins.
Yeah, I mean, because one would put it back to 6, obviously, and there's no, the Slayer damage doesn't come off of the blast damage because it's not direct combat damage. So it would only be 5. So even one Simzuum would have kept it alive by 1. But having a double there can literally fully regen the short stag and say, hey, deal with it all over again.
What? Wow. I guess they don't want to heal it.
Okay, so
I'm not sure if there's something we're not seeing here, or I think they're trying to look for a lethal line with the Ramens. They just value the Ramens too much, and they wanted to flip.
Possibly I completely agree with you. I personally value the short stag as a very big threat with the overrun, and obviously opening it up, and we're only 12 health. It's pretty huge, and I'm starting to get the feeling that Reg is almost stabilizing into this game. I mean, Leshy Green alone now. They're probably if they're going to play Leshy Green, they'll play it before they swing. There we go. So we see Leshy Green come down now at a 9/9, which is
that's
huge.
Big Leshy,
absolutely huge. That's going to be able to deal with the perfect grade. Blast damage there, taken up. That short stag has put in its serious value. The Simzuin getting taken care of by the Racer in Shadows. The issue they have now with the Leshy. Oh, there we go. So we see come down it. The issue you have now with the Leshy Green is the Vixen just removes it, right? Because they're deadly.
As long as it's as long as it has Slayer, right? Because right now Perfect Grade has 2 armor, and so it won't be doing any damage to it, right?
So I meant as in Pentamax's Vixen just removes Leshy. Do you question the Leshy placement out wide? Just dropping a 9/9 to say it's going to just die with a trade in. I mean, it removes the nine tail vixen. Depends how much they value the spirit reanimation, which at the moment is useless because there are no spirits in the boneyard for Peter Max. So they're going to just take that trade. And do you feel like maybe the other way around, like?
I think that was a fine play. You really don't want you want to threaten the vixen. You don't want her staying around. But unfortunately, Peter Max has the call from the grave, and is getting very close to lethal here.
Yep, indeed, indeed. Well, I mean, we
I think
say
you
the
flip once here to take out the auto cam. If I were Peter Max,
get rid of the card draw.
yeah. So you
So I
you
mean, they're
can
both on two charges, so one spell, and then that's two card draw. Oh, the IQ torso off the top is a nice pull off the top there. I mean, it's a big card. It's not potentially enough yet. There's a drastic difference, or in life totals with Petamax obviously sat on 25 and Reg only on 7.
Mhm.
Smite being only 1 damage, it's easy to cast it aside, but that 1 chip damage can easily set up a lethal line.
Yeah, and this is a really hard spot to be in. They don't have any more artifacts and aren't going to be able to get more minions through the forgelings. So they're either going to have to pop down an Iku. They see both Ramens in Peter Max's hand. So if I were in Reg's situation, I would be doing everything I can right now to block those 3 minions, in lanes 1 through 3.
Yeah, no,
Because
definitely.
they can flip 3 times right now, at
Yeah,
least.
exactly. Which obviously puts Reg down on 4 health, and that is
Mhm.
not a spot I want to be in, especially with Call from the Grave floating around. We can see that 1 has been played, but there are still 2 in the deck. 1 in the deck that Petamax could find and that could pose lethal. Playing the Iketusa out wide, giving the Vixen Defender, meaning that it can't trade, obviously, unless they try to trade into it. Llama's Kiss on the IQ would always, it's never a bad thing because that's a lot of life total to get back as well. However, the Hopeless Necromantic next to it will bring back the Canine Handler if it chooses. Here we see the Ramens coming in, and they're really going to start putting that pressure on, like you said, pushing that 4 life total. Or
Let's see what
pushing
they
that
get off a disc. Ooh,
Merciless
what a
Prophecy
draw.
there. That is an
And
incredible draw
with the
because they
Born
have
in
the mana.
Cruelty,
Yeah,
they're gonna be able to take out that Iku right away,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
that is
that's
lethal.
going to be lethal there because the Ramen's going
Yep,
to be able to get 1 extra damage at the end as well. So we see
yep.
the Born Cruelty come down, put it down to 1 health. We're going to see the Hopeless Necromantic swing through the Vixen and the Simzuin, pop the Ramen and Smite, and that is going to be lethal to Petamax. What a game there.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was
That Peter
incredible.
Max just had so much gas. They just kept flipping. Like, I know you were saying you were a little worried sometimes disc decks that can just run out of gas, but despite all the auto cams and Gloombringer, it's funny. Reg couldn't even get those auto cams really going. Peter Max was just all over the board, and they didn't even have a chance to cast any other buff spells that they had in their hand,
Yes.
because they were constantly just trying to deal with the board, and it was crazy.
Yes, definitely. And we see game 2 now. We're bringing Reggie's bringing back the deck we just saw, the list we just saw, the green purple spirit list with a cheeky little side condiment of red, and Peter Max bringing the red orange, which isn't a strict kind of rush deck by any means. It is a lot more of a mid range deck.
Mhm.
Despite, I mean, a lot of especially newer players to the game associate Journey of Souls as a more aggressive pathway, right? But it can get just as much value late game as it offers early game.
Agreed. Especially the longer the game goes, you're just and the more trades happening, right? The more of your minions that keep dying, you're just going to be getting more and more value as the game goes on. And it's
Exactly.
so nice with things like Melopamine Muse, because that card's demise draws you a card, and then when you get it back off of Journey of Souls, which is a free card, you get another free card, another draw off of it. So
So do you think this matchup favors Reg a little bit more with this deck? Obviously, last time we saw the likes of Aiku Torsus, Chalk Stags, Perfect Grades. They're really big bodies that are really, really hard to deal with. And as much as the Night Hags tried to deal with them, they just couldn't stall them out long enough. Now, this deck obviously doesn't run as big opposing late game threats. You still have a Stagori Plota, you still have a 7-ring Ritual, you still have Armageddon Angel. But other than that, really, you're not looking at anything big. Do you think the list Reg is running now that they run last game has a bit more of a chance against this list?
I do. I think they're gonna have a little bit of easier time um, dealing with this list just because there are going to be necromantics, repeatedly, bringing things back from the boneyard. The one thing that they are going to have a big time dealing with is 7-ring ritual. There are no good answers in Reg's deck to that card.
No, not at all. And a card that
And
is kind of really in the kind of front and center in these decks now is that Corrupt Prayer Will. Right, it's again a card that I didn't see a lot at all pre the kind of the spirit love, shall we say. Everyone loves loving spirits, the Rings of Immortality Core, but it's a very strong card now, right? The swing of effectively 1 damage or 1 drain, if you want to call it, 1 damage and 1 life gain. Every time, not only you play a spirit, your opponent plays a spirit as well. Is very good in these kind of burn green purple decks or these kind of spirit focused green purple decks.
yeah, and I think Reg was expecting to face more spirit decks. Um, and that's why it's in their deck because they don't have that many spirits to get that much value off of it. I think they were just expecting to get value off of other people playing spirits, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it came, you could argue if it came out in the previous matchup, but they found it on curve, it gets a bit more value because the Vixen obviously is a spirit. We saw Leshy, obviously Leshy Green was being played by Reg, but there are other cards there that are spirits that do play into that as well. And Reg's really starting to build up some artifact steam, shall we say now, because you see the steam coming off that Phaser creation, creating the 3/3 Forgeling now and moving across there. Now, this is going to be a really interesting match how it plays out and how it goes on because I feel like both these decks only get stronger the longer the game goes. And it's not a case of, as we've seen with previous matches or previous decks, like maybe the red-yellow that can run out of steam. These kind of build steam and build steam and build steam. And it's going to be it's like a proper battle of the Titans. Fortunately, 2/2 coming down to block up lane 5 as we're looking at the screen. And I would eat the damage, obviously, from the, well, I won't eat the damage because it doesn't have the armor. This one comes down with the Blast 2. Seal of Exile off the top for Peter Max. That is obviously a card that can always change the shape of a game, along with Gigantomachia as well.
Yeah,
How do you see them playing out so far? Yeah, I mean, Peter Max's hand is looking pretty tasty right now. Agreed?
Agreed, man. They are in such a good spot. They're swarming the board already. Muse is most likely to come down. I mean, even playing it slower and playing Jaza, just giving Reg an even harder time with another crazy unit to deal with, a crazy minion to deal with. I mean, there's very few good answers to Jaza. The only thing Reg can most likely do is Night Hag it and try and ignore it. Let Astray does work on it, but unfortunately, yeah, they don't have either of those cards.
No.
Now would be a good time to balance, though. You're kind of yeah. I think Reg should definitely try and balance here because they are in a pretty bad spot.
Yeah, they have nothing. They have no real answers in hand. They have cards in hand, but no real answers in hand. Balance pulling 4 cards is incredibly valuable. To be honest, to get the value of the mana cost and gem cost of balance, 2 to 3 cards is kind of, you can get that consistently. You're pretty much getting the value of balance. 4 cards is huge on that. And as you said, it's posing 8 damage on the board at the moment. Sorry, 6 damage on the board now because the blast taking care of the Stagori Pup.
Yeah, I like this play.
Yeah, 6. I say 6 damage is not. It's not huge to worry about. We see Corrupt Prayer Will coming down as well. Looking for that long game, maybe just gaining that kind of just a little pings, those little drains over time that can help out picking it up. And then And then we're going to see the information come up there, obviously being a spirit as well, with the Vodnik informant coming down, giving the information of Peter Max's hand to Reg. And it might seem it's a card again, Vodnik informant. It doesn't get tons and tons of play, but having information on what your opponent has in hand it can be huge, especially
For
in a
sure.
list like what Reg is playing. Is well, I could also I want to be blocking off something big with that and getting good value with it. Now I can see exactly what's in hand. Well, I can see there's a Gigantomachia there. I've got to be careful when I play my Akutorsu. It's huge, huge value to get that information.
Yeah, and knowing that they also have the seal. So um I think they can't wait for Peter Max to use it. They're just gonna have to force that answer out of their hand and hope that they draw into like their short stag or something, and or even maybe play some big leshies and get them to use that card.
Yeah, no, exactly. Try to bait it out because obviously the issue not only with the Ikatorsu is with Fire's creation. These forgelings are now every forgeling that's created is literally chump to Gigantomachia. It's just it's like throwing bait into a water full of sharks. Like it's Gigantomachia just eats it all up. It's so they need to bait that out because at the moment Gigantomachia answers 3 out of the 4 cards in Reg's hand.
Yeah. And so going back to last play, hopefully they end up Peter Max ends up swarming the board again because Reg is just losing value on that balance. I think they had more than enough life total last turn to make use of the balance. They could have played that second auto cam like they did and just played balance. But they chose to answer the board, which was also a good play. But I don't know if balance is going to get them much value anymore. Let's see if they end up burning it.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, the benefit of playing it earlier is not only do they get a card draw, but as you said with the autocam, it's a spell, so it plays into the autocam as well, and you're setting up potentially
Yeah.
another card draw later on as well. So they're going to play the balance now, get a 2 off it, which is about base value. I would recommend if anyone's thinking, do I play balance? Don't I play balance in my purple deck? If you can get 2 to 3 off it consistently, you're pretty much getting the value of the card. If you're getting 1 or obviously 0 off it, then it's a hindrance to it. And it's a very situational card, but it's as with any card that is situational, it can be amazing. It can also brick for you as well. Leshy Green off top isn't going to pose much of a threat right now, but Gloombringer potentially could. They still need to find a way of baiting out Gigantomachia. Maybe the Leshy Green could be that answer because if a few minions come down on Peter Max, you get a Leshy Green out that comes out around the 6, 6, 7, 7. They want to deal with it. Then obviously Reg can see some of Pentamax's hand. Pentamax can't see any of Reg's hands, so he won't know that
Mhm.
the Gigantomachia, sorry, that the Ikotorch is in there. But he will obviously know that the forgelings are there because they are visible.
Yeah, so they're probably holding it for the forgelings. Um, if they see both of those forgelings come down at any point, I think they just go for it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And then
getting
and then
baiting out 2 forgelings and saving an IQ is a kind of a play you'll take all day long, right? Getting rid of a Gigantomachia with no reanimation for it in this deck, knowing that you can still play your short stag, your Torsu, potentially big Leshy Green, future forgelings, you take that all day long for sacrificing 2 of your smaller forgelings. Sorry, forgelings, it sounds really harsh, doesn't it? Like you guys go out there and take the flat. You're just gonna get eaten, but you're gonna do it for the team. You're gonna take one for the team.
they
That's
were
what you
built
want.
for this.
That was it. That was what
They
they
were
built for. Look at them.
created for this.
They are ready. They are posed. One's got an axe. The other one is doing what looks like the start of a Fortnite dance on his card, but they are ready. They are going for it. But we see the Race with Shadows coming down there, getting the proc off the prayer wheel, crap prayer wheel. Let us straight. I mean, honestly, I like the Lestray answer there. Just Jaza Aquibis is a card that can be just irritating.
Yeah,
It's just irritating. And taking that board
perfect
state.
description.
Yeah, there we go. And we see the first bit of bait coming down and being like, "Do you want to get rid of me? Do you want to get rid of me? There's only a 4/4 left in hand. Are you going to get rid of me yet?" And we'll see just what Peter Max does with in response.
Yeah, this is not looking too bad for Reg. They're starting to get value off those autocams. and playing some big forgelings. They even have another Gloombringer in hand and can start tutoring more cards out. Not looking too bad at all. And Max is starting to get, those first couple of minions back from their boneyard off of Journey of Souls and are going to start going wide again, which is going to give that Leshy insane value.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, we keep mentioning Gigantomachia. There's a Seal of Exile in hand as well, which obviously is a straight up again spot removal, and that is visible. That's been visible for the last 3 or 4 turns to Reg. Reg will know that
Mhm.
that is there as well. So it's not only trying to bait out the Gigantomachia, it is also trying to get rid of that Seal of Exile, which is never an easy feat because as the game gets later on, and yes, you have a mana sacrifice with it, but it doesn't really hinder you once you get above that 7 or 8 mana because you can still play pretty much all your cards in your deck while taking that mana punishment.
Yep. And this is honestly the Reg just top decks another Gloombringer. So they're gonna be able to find, I don't think you play both of them this turn, but I think, you can play one and then maybe try and find a low mana cost spirit and then get a big Leshy out and force out the Machia this turn. And I think you're in an okay spot.
Yeah, there you go. See one Gloombringer come down. Obviously, with every artifact that gets played, a bigger Forged Link comes into hand. And again, we know
Mhm.
that Gigantomachia and Seal of Exile are on show. Reg can see them, and they'll know that Peter Max can't allow these forgelings just to keep building a board. They need to answer them at some point, right? And if anyone's wondering why Misfortune came off the top then, because Misfortune is a spirit spell. Gloombringer allows you to tutor a spirit basically from the top 4 cards of your deck. It doesn't have to be a minion, it can be a spell. And then Fortune coming down and posing a threat out or looking to block up the Oak of Dodona out in lane 2 as we're looking at the board.
Yeah, this is actually insane. So, Max top decks the Stairway to Hades, and it's kind of funny though because they use their desertification engine and already enchanted those 3 lanes, and they're not on Rainbow's End. They can't replace enchantments. So, and the oak. Wait, what? I guess they can replace enchantments. Uh,
I believe, isn't it only? Yeah, there you go. So Desert is the only enchantment that can be replaced with other
oh,
enchantments.
true, true.
Yeah, so Desert's
That
the
was my
only enchantment
mistake.
that can be replaced.
Yeah.
But also,
Keep the
a lot of
cards
people,
wholesome.
a lot of people think Oak is a demon. It's not. It's a vampire. So although vampires can be pretty demonic, but it is a vampire. Now, obviously, where it's died, where it took the trade, it is now a demon vampire flora. But it's now stunned demon vampire flora. I mean, maybe we get some more keywords on there. Maybe we can get a angel stunned demon vampire flora on there. Who knows? But second Gloombringer coming down, offering that extra tutoring. That's allowing them to find 2 cards per turn, 2 spirit cards per turn. Obviously, hoping that they don't whiff on their looking at the top 4 cards of their deck. That Leshy Green's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah, and I really just want to see this value with the misfortune recurring with the auto cams. Just that infinite value. All right, there, the Gigantomachia finally comes out, but that's frenzied Oka Dodana, 10
Yeah.
damage face. Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? That's the kind of time you want to bring it out, like clear up those lanes, 10 damage to
Mhm.
face, really put the pressure now on Reg, put them on the back foot. We know they got Llama's Kiss, which does gives the life tap, which will potentially, on something like an Torsu, is potentially very nice, very promising. But also that Gigantomachia will play into or will not nullify, but reduce the Leshy Green value. Pentamax obviously doesn't know Leshy Green's there. And now we see the Torsu come down, block up that lane to Oak and just say, hey, you're not going to play a card
Oh
into light.
man.
You're going to play a card.
And that
Temptation.
is game.
That is indeed.
So Seal on Iku and Wings the Leshy.
Yeah. Yeah, opens up the lane.
So they knew they had Seal in hand. I wonder if it would
Oh,
have been
going
better
for a
to
different
go.
one. They're going Ruby Raider out wide, looking to that 1 damage on there.
Okay.
And then wings out wide over here.
This is
Infuse
this
on
is
top.
also another line
And
of
there we go.
lethal.
Yeah. Ruby Ray right there, nice and wide, putting it through. Wings out in lane 7 as we're looking at the board. Buff that with Infuse, and that is going to be Peter Max's game. And that is going to be
Man,
2-0 in the series for Peter Max. And
another
that is gonna
2-0.
wrap up. That is going to wrap up the quarter-finals, people. So we can now jump into the bracket and look at how the other games played out.
That that
We
Can
go
I
to
just say,
brackets.
Woody?
Yes.
Can I just say that Hades play was insane because of the demise that Oak gives, right? You're gonna be getting, that Div 4 and a card draw. And with Reg being on the life total that they were at, they were really low. It gave Peter Max the opportunity to find exactly what they needed to open up lethal, to find lethal that next turn. It was just, and then having it die twice, you can just, it was too good.
Yeah.
Perfect top deck there.
As you said as well, as we said earlier in the cast, that the divination is such an important keyword, especially that mid to late game. Having the consistency of knowing what you're pulling, then Oak obviously allows you to pull that card as well. When you obviously demise, it's super strong. It's it was a great play, and Peter Max just having all the answers, kind of really like Reg almost didn't do anything wrong. Just a case of Peter Max had the answers and utilized the answers to the best of their ability and took the series 2-0. Now, we aren't going to look at the bracket, I'm afraid, until we're back from the break. Bracket is just being set up, but we are going to take a little break there, people. We have plenty more high-level Mythgard action for you. We still got 2 semi-finals to come, as well as that all-important final, which Mythgardian will take the lion's share of that $1,000 prize pool. Make sure you stay tuned in to find out. But this is the perfect opportunity for you to go and get your drinks, get your snacks, I don't know, whatever you choose to eat, have on a little side there. Have a breather, and then we'll be back in about 6 to 7 minutes, guys, and we'll be carrying on with the semi-finals of the first ever Mythgard Open. See you in a little bit. Welcome back to Mythgard Open number 1, the first ever Mythgard Open, and that is that tasty $1,000 prize pool up for grabs. We've seen 2 of the quarterfinal matches, and all the quarterfinal matches are all wrapped up now. I'm going to jump across to the bracket in a minute, but Wholesome, we watched 2 of the matches. We watched Petamax versus Reg, and we also watched Cool Cat versus You Can Call Me Out. Seeing from those going forwards, what do you think we can expect kind of going into semi-finals, I suppose?
I think it's looking really good for the mid-range list right now. Honestly, the aggro decks just haven't been pulling off as much. I mean, Al was mainly on aggro decks, and it didn't work out too well for them. Although I think Medaka is also running a bunch of 3 aggro lists, and it just so happened to work out for them. So I guess the aggro's hit or miss, but the mid-range lists are really just putting in work.
Yeah, they really are. One interesting thing I wanted to point out, though, is obviously we spoke about some stats at the beginning, and 25% of the decks in the top 8 are blue or feature blue as a color, and we've seen very little blue. Obviously, the first game they were banned. The blue yellow was banned, and so that was game 2. In the first game, the mono blue was banned. Cool Cat's mono blue was banned. In the second game, we saw the blue yellow banned. Petamax couldn't bring that to the show. But obviously, we don't know about the other ones. Are you surprised that we haven't seen blue decks come out yet, that even despite it being the most popular color?
I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons why we haven't been seeing them as much, is because they're super strong and people are gonna want to ban them, especially if somebody doesn't have YG in their lineup, but they do have like Petamax has the yellow and blue, which are 2 insanely strong colors, and that's definitely going to be your ban against them, unless you have something that can just destroy that lineup.
Yeah, and on the YG, a stat I didn't share at the beginning, but only 2 yellow-green decks were brought or were in the top 8. Just 2. So only 2 players bring them in. Most likely because with the ban system now in place, knowing how oppressive the deck can be, people would most likely ban it. I think yesterday I saw it banned. It wasn't brought a lot, but when it was brought, it was almost an instant ban. People were straight away saying, "I'm not even going to try and deal with that deck," which is absolutely no surprise.
For sure, and it's interesting to note that Bad's decks are mono blue and red orange and yellow green. So it's going to be interesting to see which deck they're going to be banning out. I think everybody's going to be letting that RO deck through, and it's going to be a toss up between the mono blue list or the YG list. But I think more people will lean towards banning out the YG.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? It's just, as we saw, it's a very, very, very strong list. Now, we do have a little bit of unfortunate information to bring you guys. But unfortunately, one of the competitors has had to pull from the tournament. Cool Cat, unfortunately, has been called to a last-minute family emergency. So we just want to take a moment just to kind of wish him all the best. Hope everything is well over in Cool Cat land. And yeah, so unfortunately, we will only be bringing you one of the semi-finals. Cool Cat was supposed to be playing against Bad, but unfortunately, Bad will progress straight away to the final. It was an agreement with Cool Cat. Obviously, family is far more important, and we wish you all the best over there, Cool Cat. But take us through the results then on Wholesome from the quarterfinals. Obviously, we watched for Cool Cat and You Can Call Me Out and Petamax Reg, but the other 2 matches, talk us through these and any surprises that jump out to you.
I was a little surprised. I mean, with the last series we watched, how it was a clean 2-0, and I think that's one thing that we saw in the other matchup that we watched, is that people tried to play the same deck and they didn't even get a chance to play their other deck. And that's the thing with Conquest, is you're gonna have to win with both of them. So if you don't win with it in the first game, do you switch over, or do you just try and get your win with it right then? But I was surprised to see Medaka 2-0 Mole. I thought Mole's lists could handle aggro pretty well, but I guess if depending on what happened, I guess Molik just couldn't hang in there against the starts that Medaka had on his aggro list. And surprising to see Toonstar lose to Bad. I think Toonstar's lineup was really well situated in the meta into what was happening in this tourney, and Bad kind of has the standard mono blue RO and YG lineup, and so that was interesting. It must have been close though, because that was a 2-1, and I think that was the only 2-1 we've had so far.
Yes, yeah, Tune taking that one game there and taking it all the way through to 3 games. So as we said, unfortunately, Coolcat isn't partaking here, so we will be focusing all of our attention on Petamax against Madoka. So we haven't watched Madoka play yet. We're going to jump across to the decks right now and actually see what we're going to go through. We won't spend too long on Petamaxes because we've obviously just seen the lists. But once again, guys, all the decks are brought to you by Mythgard Hub. They are available over there right now. Get over there, mythgardhub.com, and you can import all those decks straight into your game. Now, kicking off with Petamax, obviously we've looked at these before. Went 5-1 yesterday. We saw the green-purple in action. It overcome the green-purple of Regis, just as the red-orange did. Do you think with Medaka running the more, they're not all strict aggro, but more aggressive decks, do you think it's the same picture? Do you think the blue-yellow gets banned again, or is there anything else that kind of stalls out that aggro potentially in a more dangerous situation?
The purple-green necromantic deck usually is very, very good against aggro. Just because of the recurring necromantics, and then usually bringing out something way too big for aggro to deal with on turn 4. But the thing that makes it not so good against aggro is that Petamax is not running Sword Saints. So usually that's what kind of keeps you in the game against aggro. You end up getting a big dude out pretty early, and then you slap a bitey blade on it, and all of a sudden you're back to starting health, and it's like aggro did nothing, right? So I think they might end up just banning out the yellow-blue because that has Wonder Drug, Misanthropia, and I think you're not too scared of the purple-green Reanimator when it doesn't have Sword Saints.
Yeah, no, that's an absolutely classic, wholesome point, you could say there. I bet there's a couple of people chuckling at home now. But let's jump across. Let's jump across and take a look at Medaka's list and see what Medaka's going to bring to try and quell this terrorizing damage that we saw put out last match or last series by Petamax. Talk us through Medaka's lists, wholesome.
So as I was saying earlier, with Al's list, the yellow-red list is very strong, and Medaka's version is a little different than Al's, but we won't go too much over that. But I guess they're running Wings of Abaddon, and Al's list wasn't, I believe, and they're a little more all-in on the buffs in this one. And then they've got the classic green purple spirits list. This is such an insane aggro burn deck that has been tearing up ladder. Yep. And it's done really well. I know quite a few people brought it, and it's super hard to deal with. I mean, even if you end up blocking, clogging all the lanes, it has ways to go over the top. And it is very hard to deal with, especially with the Call from the Grave. That is just insane damage, that the instant 4 burn damage. And then if you bring back, let's say, a Wailing Yokai, and then put it across from 3 units, that's 7 just from hand.
I mean, one of the things I've really seen with this green purple list is the variety of paths of it. It feels like there isn't a locked path of it. Currently, we see Madoka bringing it with Turn of Seasons. We saw in previous tournaments it's been run with Fires of Creation. We've also seen it run with Discus Arcadia, Journey of Souls. There isn't a set path of it, and I love that. I love the fact that people are using the path to kind of suit their play style, but kind of slightly tweaking the list here and there to suit the tournament situation.
Yeah, I love to see it too. It's just a versatile deck, and it's perfect for conquest. And even Madaka is running stuff like pillage in case of the mirror match, where your opponent ends up getting their own corrupt prayer wheel.
But we need to, very sorry to interrupt, just need to highlight something there. It's a slight issue. It has been resolved, like a complete agreement. So the list that you're seeing is actually a slight different to the list we're actually going to see in the game. There was a complete human error mistake by Madoka. They imported the deck because it was day one and day two. The wrong deck was imported, where unfortunately this list we're actually going to see in the matchup doesn't run pillage. It runs an additional detain. So it has 3 detained, no pillage. Now, that was obviously that was a breach of the rules. Now, there was a complete agreement. There was a conversation off of screen happened between Madoka and previous opponent, and it was completely agreed that they could continue. It was fine, no hard feelings done by it. However, if Madoka pulls or draws their 3rd detained in the match, they are not allowed to burn it and they are not allowed to use it. So that is a dead card in their hand. That is the agreement for them to continue in the tournament. That is happening there. So sorry to interrupt you, Wholesome, but just to let you know,
worries.
that's what happened on that one there. It was a computer human error. It was no by no means any snarky cheating or anything like that. I want to quash that out straight away. It was just a genuine error that happened there. And then obviously the mono blue list, right? Which is, we don't need to say too much on it. Everyone's seen the mono blue list. It's a very, very strong list. And yeah, we can see it's in its full glory there. But I think we're pretty good to, or we're nearly good. We're good to jump across to the game. So we can actually jump into game 1 and see what people are rocking over here in Pentamax versus Madoka in match number 1. Oh, sorry. My completely, that is completely on me. That is Woody's fault. I misheard in my ear. I thought it said games are ready. Games aren't ready, so don't worry. You're gonna bands are ready. Because Woody got the wrong order as well. So bands are ready. That's completely on Woody there. I'm very sorry about that. Bands are ready. We can jump across to bands, people, and we can have a look at what people are banned, because that's pretty important information, right? Before we actually get into what the actual games are. So let's have a look at what is banned. Okay, so you can see Madoka is green, purple, the band there, and as you said earlier or previously, the blue, yellow, that kind of very strong enchantment deck Pentamax is banned. Any surprises jumping out at you there, Wholesome?
No, I think that was the perfect thing for Madoka to ban. You do not want to deal with that. And same thing on Peter Max's end, is that Spirit Burn deck is super scary, and it does not give you a chance to really react.
Indeed.
It just has too much damage.
Indeed. Well, let's jump into game 1 now. Again, Woody, finally we got there. Woody got there in the end. I can only apologize again, people. Sorry about that. I was a little bit too excited. Madoka, though, running the mono blue deck. The first time we've seen it today. We know just how powerful that deck can be. Pentamax bringing out the orange red deck. Now, Pentamax had the option of the orange red deck or their take on the purple green deck, the kind of reanimate deck we saw before.
Mm-hmm.
Which deck do you think offers the best counter to the mono blue list?
I think they both do fairly well against it. They both play low to the ground, and they have a very low curve, and that's what I was saying about Peter Max's purple green list, is that they have Forest Samuzans, they have Tong Foot Soldiers, they've got all kinds of stuff in case they have to play this matchup, right? So I think they're happy either way here. And they have a really good hand. If they can make it to 7 mana with the Armageddon Angel, they're in really good shape. Either way, the Gigantomachia is going to be great here. So is the Magmatar. They've got all this low mana fodder here with life gain on the Stray Panaceas. I think this is a fine matchup for Peter Max.
Yeah, the Stray Panacea is a card that I think it's very, very good. It's a nice early game blocker, which is kind of what you want against this mono blue, right? You obviously initially take the damage, but you end up gaining 4 life, and it's card drawer. And there's not, I mean, obviously there is overrun in Madoka's list in Demolition Speedway and Valkyrie Enforcer, but the Valkyrie Tough doesn't pose that overrun. So having it down as a blocker for now is it's doing its job. And we see the desertification engine coming up there, which is again desertification engine. I don't want to say it's an underrated car because it gets a lot of play. Although I do feel like it's kind of one of the unsung heroes of the deck. The 2-5 stat line is incredibly strong in its own right. Only the one gem as well. And don't take those deserts for lightly, because let's be honest, they can be replaced by any enchantment.
Indeed, they can.
Sorry, that wasn't a swipe. That was no swipe. That was just me,
Sure.
me having a little bit of fun, But anyway, we see the desertification engine coming down because Peter Max goes, "Yeah, Woody, you are right. Don't worry, it is a strong card. I'm going to drop it right now in lane 3 as we're looking at the board and pose a threat or look to kind of slow down that Road Queen over there." The hand and board state for Madoka is looking, I don't want to say pretty standard because that sounds like a negative connotation, but it's looking as we'd expect, right, on going into turn 4 in a mono blue list. Do you imagine Demolition Speedway coming down now and offering threat? Oh no, there
Oh
we go.
yeah, for sure. Sven with that mana reduction on the
Yep,
enchantment, I think that is the play 100% here.
Red Queen there.
And
There
you
we
get
go.
Yeah, you get to deal with that engine right away. And it's important to note here that Peter Max was on the draw, and so they got their pursuit from their path, and
Yep.
that's how they got the eager recruit back right away. And they ended up burning it, so they could keep more cards in their hand, and they just didn't want to bother playing it again. They know that Madaka's list runs the speedways, so there's no point in trying to chump block as Madaka's minions get huge and can, you know, end up having to overrun.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we can see, obviously, Madoka's hand size again slightly smaller now, but Junkyard Valhalla, which has been burnt, it's by no means a bad card. It pulls back cards from your graveyard. It can't keep pulling them back because when it pulls back a card, it gives it the tagline as a dredge, and you can only have one dredge on the board to make it
Mhm.
pull it back. So it doesn't. It's not continuous reanimation. But Savin's a card that has come out in the Rings of Immortality set, and it is literally, it's found the perfect home in this blue list, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, he fits in a couple other lists, but I think this card is incredible. Like big props to the Rhinos for developing this card and designing it. It's been such a pleasure and a joy to play with in a multitude of decks, but especially in this mono blue list, it makes those big tempo plays with the enchantments huge, and then him having teleport on his own
Yeah.
works so well on this list.
Yeah, it's kind of really played into the kind of archetype that was blue was like showing in stages before Rings of Immortality, the kind of
Mhm.
enchantment and movement archetypes that it offers. I mean, playing Bridgeway Trial and allowing that to teleport anywhere on the board, reducing enchantments, it offers a lot of creative plays. It doesn't make it easy. It just says to you, look, I'm going to give you as many answers as you want, basically, when you're running me, but you've got to find those answers yourself. And I love that about blue.
Right.
It's what is the reason there's an amazing blue puzzle in the game, which if anyone's new to the game, I recommend go check the puzzles out. And there's an amazing blue movement puzzle, which I think took me probably close to a week. But it's a lot of fun. I think that maybe they should put Savin in that puzzle, and all of a sudden it comes a lot easier. But back to the match, we're going to see Magmatar come down lane 2 as we're looking at the board, get rid of that Valkyrie tough, and now Savin's going to be out there on his own. Well, it was on his own until they always say man's best friend, and that's no different for K9 and Savin. They are best friends, and K9 is going to come back and keep Savin company in lane 3 as we're looking at. By the proc from Junkyard Valhalla. Now, once again, remind people, if they were to move K9 off of lane 3 as we're looking at as I'm looking at the board, then it wouldn't bring another card back from Junkyard Valhalla because it has the dredge tagline, and you can only have one dredge on the board, otherwise Junkyard Valhalla does not
Correct.
prop. Yes. Peter Max's hand is, I mean, Armageddon Angel, I feel like, is a very important card in this matchup. Played at the right time, bidding off the board state, really kind of putting it, like, basically removing the board state is huge, right? Because if they don't find the Ingrid, if they don't find the cards to build a hand back up, putting enchantments is all good with Rainbow's End, but if you don't have minions to play, those enchantments aren't much use, right?
Yep. And they are slowly running out of gas, but it's a really good thing that they have a Valhalla on board. And the next minion that they're getting back is a Road Queen, which will continue to buff up their Valkyries. But it's important to note that Peter Max is about to be like have enough mana to play Armageddon Angel.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I mean, 2 turns time. If the dredges coming from that Junkyard Valhalla were to be removed, that it would bring back a Frecky sidecar. Why is that so important? Well, because it instantly creates rush opportunities, which we know how
mhm,
big they can be. Bringing the tough across to the speedway makes sense. Bringing 6 damage down, which is a pretty tasty amount, right? Putting them down to 10
yeah,
health, and the amount the options that blue have with movement, with everything like that, with
with
the
Rush.
enchantment, yeah, the 10 damage is very, very dangerous area to be in.
Yep, you can easily secure that 10 damage when you're playing Valkyries. So,
Yeah,
but the nice thing is that Peter Max played Temptation last turn, and this turn they'll be able to, kill it off instead of it bouncing back to Madaka's hand. They'll be able to kill it off with the Armageddon Angel, so they'll get that free swing with it, and it's like they're wiping the entire board instead of sending this guy back to Madaka's hand.
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it makes the most sense, right? Because they don't want it to go back to the hand; they want to control it. So, the 4 damage out wide, the Armageddon Angel seems like the right play right now. Um, Pushing it, the Angel would come out for trying to work out now 8-5, I believe. The 2 damage taken from the 2 minions, it would remove your side. Svin counts as your minion because he's on your side of the board, so that would buff the strength. So it would go
Mhm.
to 8-5, which is something that's not anything to cast aside, shall we say, an 8-5 minion out wide. And that's the Glory Prota does have life tap. And if it doesn't get answered, if it doesn't get dealt with, that could be a potential answer for Peter Max to gain back some of that valuable life that they have lost to
I
Madoka in
gue
the opening 6 games, 6 turns.
Yeah, I guess there is an option to play the Strigoi Proto here, and activate the Immortal until sunrise. But it is kind of risky. You know that Medaka runs movement and they run bounce. So both of those things can deal with the Proto. I think the Angel is just a safer play here.
Yes, I completely agree with it. And we're going to
Yeah.
see it there. Angel come down, lane 3 inside the enchantment, come down at 8-5. The tough is going to come back, be through the Junkyard Valhalla. We will get back the Flecky sidecar next, which
Hmm.
can do some very interesting stuff. And we see the top deck of Kara Morning Wives. That is a threat that needs to be dealt with. But as we can see, Peter Max does have a Seal of Exile in hand. If they want to get rid of that Kara Morning Wives, should they be worried about it building up? Gigantomachia wouldn't be a good shout because it would also remove their own Armageddon Angel.
Correct. I don't think they'll be playing that anytime soon. I think, yeah, they might even want to just burn it at this point. Although I don't know how much more mana they're going to need. They'll be getting a straight Panacea back in a bit once their next minion dies off of Journey of Souls. And that's going to be really good to combo with the Strigoi Proto. So it would be nice to have 8 mana.
Yeah, definitely. And there we go. See Kara Morning Wives coming down and Frecky Scout coming down out nice and wide as well. Looking to kind of create a little bit of width to the play there. We can pretty much clear the board. Well, they can clear the board here. They can literally, if they choose to, Seal of Exile Kara Morning Wives. They can play the Trapezists into the Flecky Scout. And that does clear up the board for them. Also, taking that damage then on Armageddon Angel means that should Madoka play anything big, then the Gigantomachia does get rid of it and it wouldn't remove the Armageddon Angel.
Hmm. Although the Valhalla is now getting back a freaky sidecar, so that is going to be a huge issue depending on what Medaka top decks. But that is an important thing because they are out of cards. So we'll have to see. It's all going to come down to top decks here. Peta Max doesn't have any draws left. I guess. Wow.
Okay, so
They
I'm
Machia
assuming
instead of
I'm
Seal.
assuming they go with that because they want to keep they want to keep the mana, right. They want to keep the mana cost there.
Yes. So they
They're
want
worried
to
about losing it.
they want a Proto and straight Panacea next turn. So
Okay, so they're moving across the Frecky sidecar. Once again, it won't bring another card, won't come back from the Junkyard Valhalla while Frecky sidecar's on the board because it's a dredge and you can't have any more on there. But the Stegoi Plota, now the option here
I think
being
this is a hard one. You can either wings and panacea, or you could panacea. Wings, I think, is a little safer because you deal with that sidecar right away, and then they only get a tough back from Valhalla.
well, they're going
But
to go for the
developing,
Plota
yeah, developing that Proto is super
and
strong.
they're going to sacrifice this to get the
So,
life gain.
yep.
Which makes complete sense there. It's now immortal as well, so no matter what they
Yeah, it's
play,
immortal until sunrise. So I guess it's fine if they didn't draw into bounce.
yeah, Magna Thorsten off the top though won't actually do any damage there, but playing it out in lane one, should they choose to,
I
will
mean,
mean
that's
that it's
4.
4 damage to the face, and that's a putting him on 5 life tap. Obviously, it does have life tap, Stiggery Plota, but this is really coming down to like right on the edge.
Yeah, but I mean, this Proto is gonna live until next turn, and if he clears, if Max just clears the way with wings, that's gonna be a 7 life swing right there, a 14 swing.
Yeah,
Ooh, this is good. This is really good. Dark Passenger is great here.
yeah. The playing the trapezius Dark Passenger on top. Going to draw a card off the top of it as well. Stray Panacea comes down to give another immortal. They go down to 2 when they play it, but they'll go up to 6 if they choose to pop it. If that's the line they choose to take, or they could go with the wing. They're going to go with the wings, clear the
Yeah,
line.
you gotta gain that 7
Yeah,
life.
and
You
take that
you
7
can't.
life.
Yep.
And
And
all of a
now
sudden, we can
this
see
game is
now,
real close.
and only a tough in hand. It's, which isn't. It's. I mean, I don't want to say it's not going to cut the mustard. It's a tough. It's a free. It's not the end of the world. But a Stray Panacea coming down, it gives the immortal, right? So they can play the Panacea. They can take the immortal, should they choose. Or they can just trade into.
Oh,
It's not forged. Just confirm the Ruby Raider
it's
isn't
not.
forged,
It's
so they won't
not.
have the rush ability on it. Although they could use it to potentially clear a lane, should they choose to do that.
But they get a draw here. And
Yep.
what Oak? Oak is a great draw. I think you forge the Ruby Raider and you play both the Jaza and Oak.
So we remove this here again. It's immortal, taking that life tap even further. Now, just remember, they do it. Pentamax was down to 4 life 2 turns ago, and the Glory Prota coming in absolute trumps, and gaining back to 16 life, 12 life total, and then we go Pentamax playing out nice and wide and saying, "Hey, here we go, nice and wide." Now that Junkyard Valhalla, if it wants to, could be replaced by Giant Stairway. However, that would mean that nothing else would come back from it because it would be removed. That is the ability that Rainbow's End does offer. But K9 coming out to block up lane 5 was looking at board. Stairway going underneath the K9, which is, I mean, with an infuse on Oak, it does remove the K9 and it gives you card draw, divination card draw, which is
that's lethal.
Oh, it's lethal here anyway. Yeah.
Yep, this is lethal. Trapezist infuse on the tough. And that gets 1 ping from Oak, and the rest is face damage.
Yep.
And I am
And
so
we swing through
excited to
here, and we
see the
swing through there.
Strigoi Pro to come down. Like,
Wow.
we have not been seeing this card played much on ladder, and it just did an insane amount of work. So I'm expecting to see people playing this from now on.
I mean, I don't want to get as shallow as saying that card won the game, but there's no denying in that situation the card came up absolute trumps, right? It just controlled that board. Anything between lane 2 and up to lane 5 was just blocked out, and it not only blocked out, it was just gaining life off that life tap, and it literally brought Petamax back from the brink of lethal.
Right. It was incredible.
Oh, absolutely. So Peter Max coming up 1-0 in the series so far. Jumping into game 2, Madoka going back with the mono blue list, a trait that we've seen a lot on every game we've covered so far. Every time a deck has lost, people have taken it straight back to the fight. They're like, no, I'm going to win with this deck. And Peter Max is green-purple list that we saw him play earlier. It's more of a traditional kind of Necro list, but it does have a little bit of that spirit synergy in there with stuff from Call to the Grave, as well as some other spicy spirits in there. But opening hands, Wholesome, talk us through these opening hands and how you expect this to start playing out.
I think this is really looking really good for Peter Max, because yeah, they have this double board again, so they can discard one, play one to block, and Madaka just has a really nice curve into Road Queen here, and the most important card in their hand is the Ingrid Storm Daughter, and they're yeah, no matter what Peter Max does, if they end up, removing all their creatures, they're just going to be able to get them all back.
Yeah, well,
But we do see
not all
that.
of them. It's free, right? It's
Yeah, three of
free
them.
Valkyries. It used to be all of them,
Yeah.
but obviously it got
Sorry. Yeah.
adjusted. And no need to apologize, dude. It's free Valkyries. It does bring back, and some Zoon sitting out there, nice and wide. Don't take 2 damage lightly. Again, like I said, it can go along there. Apologies for the freeze. Now we're going to jump back straight into the fight and join the game as we're going on. But we can see, or the Frecky Scout sat in mid. 4 damage off Demolition Speedway is not to be, again, snuffed at. It's currently 17 life, putting down to 13. Anything around 10 health against this blue list, as we said last time, with bounce, with movement, we see Bridgeway Troll, we see Valkyrie, Enforcer in there, not Enforcer, Valkyrie Enforcer, sorry, my bad, in there as well for the bump back. Road Queen buffs there. Anything around 10 life is dangerous spot to be in for Pentamax, right?
Yeah, and Madaka is just swarming the board here. And we know that purple green does not have any sort of board clears. But it is nice that they do have the Born Agains, as I said, as well as Racer. And they will be able to use Call for another Racer just to take out some more of these Valkyries. But that
Yes.
is, your entire turn on turn 4.
Yeah, and it's just collateral damage, right? It's trying to minimize as much damage as I can take for now. Let me build my resource pool and my mana, my gems, and then let me get into that kind of green late game, spirit late game that I can play from this deck. That's kind of what Peter Max's main priority and job is now. Try to stabilize, build up that kind of that traction with those that mana and gems. And Bridgeway Troll is gonna. I mean, do we have lethal here? Not quite.
Yes.
Yeah, we do actually.
Yeah.
No, we do have lethal. Yeah.
Yep.
We go to
That's
actually
lethal.
bring this across the middle, swing mid, and Road Queen coming through. We have lethal there. That is exactly it. That is the tempo plays that we can see come out. 14 damage by Madoka on turn 5 is exactly the situation blue wants to be in that mono blue list. Obviously, that list can't be run now because we go into game 3, 1-1, and it will be the red-yellow list of Madoka against the green-purple list of Peter Max. And again, Wholesome. Everyone loves you opening up with talking about the hands. Talk through the hands again, buddy.
I think this is a really good one for Peter Max because they have all these 1-drops. The double Samuzin is great, and Barkeeps are also great here. Just the 3/4 body is gonna be able to hold up against any of these early game creatures, and the fact that Peter Max is going first here makes a big difference. It gives them a little bit more time to kind of develop the board and not be forced to answer everything that Madaka plays out.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also, but going first does have its cost in terms of Madoka has that 1 proc on Colosseum. It got changed recently from 2 down to 1, which I think personally, I'm going to just say this now. I think it's a very nice, fair balance on that one. So it goes down to 1. But that's still that one thing in this list. We know if they put a minion off the top and it gets +1/+1, it can be very, very strong. And this isn't a direct Madoka's red yellow list isn't a direct copy of what we saw earlier from You Can Call Me Out. But it is very much cut from the same cloth. It's a very similar list. And we saw just earlier that the deck can run out of steam. You're playing so many cards. Look in the hand, Gaia's Phobos, Insta Beast. Again, another Insta Beast. These are all cards that only have value when played on minions. When those minions are removed or taken from the game, then all of a sudden you don't have the cards to play. And that's exactly what happened earlier to You Can Call Me Out. That's kind of what Peter Max will be hoping for. As this game goes on, you have to feel like the longer the game goes on, the longer the rounds become, then it ends up leaning more into Peter Max's benefit of the deck.
Well, I think they're gonna have to answer almost every one of these minions, right? Because they're not running anything like Mutton Morphosis or Spirited Away. Uh, they're gonna have to answer these minions while they're still small, right? Or else they're gonna have to, get to a point where Perfect Grade comes out to, fight against, this buffed up minion with the guise of Phobos and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly that, exactly that. And Madoka at the moment doing a good job pulling these minions, which again they may seem like 2/2s and 1/2s, but you throw some beastiness into those from the Insta Beast, they become 4/5s and 5/5s, which is sorry, and 6/6s, which is just kind of scary.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely terrifying. And plus the procs from Colosseum. We see Hopeless Grammatic going to come down their
there we
lane.
go.
So we look at the board, and everyone's best friend, Perfect Grade, sat at the bottom there saying, "Hey, go on, trade into my little Hopeless Diagrammatic buddy. I dare you." And Perfect Grade there is terrifying for Madoka because that 2 damage to any minion that threatens proc only costs 1 charge to do it, and that pretty much clears, I would say, 50% of the minions in Madoka's deck off the board. Obviously
Yep.
before buffed.
I mean, Madaka could still end up racing here. They essentially don't have to attack into the necromantic and could just start kind of moving away and buffing creatures so they could get through with damage with guys of Phobos, knowing that Peter Max doesn't run any hard removal, and they would have to buff it out of the range of Perfect Grades, deal 4 damage to another minion for 2 energy.
Yeah, definitely. And we can
So
see
that's pretty much their only option.
we can see Peter Max like earlier
Yep.
on in the matchup. In previous games with this deck, they had a hand size. They could control the game because it was a bit slower. They didn't have to play minions to block lanes. Whereas we see in this matchup, Madoka's saying to them, "You've got to block my lanes," and we can see now that Peter Max is in that point where 2 items in hand, 1 minion and a spell on Summer as well, meaning that they are potentially going to have to lose a card, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that they can struggle with Steam by in the hand size. Sorry, they're going to draw a card, burn the Call from the Grave,
Oh, man.
and nearly back in the deck, and
Yeah, they drew the green off of the disc flip. Oh, man. That is
that
rough.
is not disgusting. That's just horrible for Madoka to see, right? Madoka seeing that is just like, oh, obviously he
Yeah,
doesn't know what's in hand, what he draws, but
I guess you don't need any of those transform effects when you're running Angeli, and you drew the one of copy in your deck, so that
this
is
is the
very
puck
nice.
from the mid, Insta Beast on top, which isn't going to do much because Perfect Grade can literally remove that 2 procs.
Yeah.
It can remove Mr. Gory Pup, 4 damage there, 4 damage again. That's goodbye. We're swing through for 6 or 8 overall, shall we say, 9 including the smite. Now the issue Madoka has here is exactly what we saw with You Can Call Me Out earlier. They need to pull a minion. They don't pull a minion, it's game over. And we know that this deck is running not as many spells, but it is around about 35% spell heavy that it's minion. They do find Trapezist, which isn't going to be enough, and they're going to burn that and say, "Hey, do you know what? Rather than conceding, I'm just going to buff you up and take that damage there." And Peter Max out aggro's the aggro deck, if that makes any sense.
The Reanimator can do that.
Yeah, it really can. It really can. And takes the series 2-0. That was a quick series there. And again, apologies, guys, but we are only going to be following the one semi-final today because obviously Cool Cat has had to pull out for family reasons. Once again, we wish you all the best, buddy. We hope everything is okay over there in Cool Cat land. But yeah, that was an incredible show again by Peter Max, right? That was amazing.
Yeah, it worked out really well for them. I don't know what to say. When all the combo pieces for Reanimator comes together, it just feels so unstoppable and so good. Being able to discard a big boy mythic and being able to get that hopeless necromantic out on curve when there's two blockers right there, two threatening minions. It just feels unstoppable, right? They're not running impel; they can't run away from you.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
So let me throw this question to you, Wholesome. Before we are gonna take a little break before we go into the final. But would you rather be in Peter Max's shoes, where they've played a game every round, they've gone through, they've warmed up with their decks, or would you rather be in bad shoes, where they've played a game, they've had a little break, they've maybe had a chance to kind of think about their plays, look over their replays, think about stuff, and then go into it? Would you rather have that break, or would you rather kind of continue through with it?
Uh, from personal experience from playing in many tournaments, I would definitely enjoy having the break. There's a certain amount of like mental capacity and energy that a player can endure for only so long before uh, all the games just kind of mesh together and you're making misplays. They're just too much mental energy is gone. So you know taking a break and collecting your thoughts and being in the right mindset to take on the next best of three is it's definitely advantageous.
Nice. We're going to see, obviously, how that plays out. So it is a best of three final. There's no increase for the final. It's a best of three final. So obviously, due to the unfortunate situation with Cool Cat, Madoka does finish third, picking up $200 prize purse. I mean, that's not bad, right? That's not bad for rocking up. Again, Madoka, if you are watching, 33% off packs right now, core packs. Get over there and finish your collection. Just think of it as recycling. You're taking the prizes, you're putting it back in. You're taking the prizes, I'm only messing. But in all seriousness, it's a very nice payday. Madoka picking up that $200. I know it's not the only reason people play in these tournaments. They play because they want to be competitive. They love the game, and what's not to love. But there is $800 on the line in the final. $500 for first place, $300 for that runner up, which is still $300. That's it's a lot of goodness right there. I mean, that would be takeaway pizza for me all day long tonight. Whoever went, like, guaranteed. But what are you thinking about that? I'm thinking about how good pineapple is on pizza. Probably shouldn't have said that, because that's going to start all sorts of fire in the chat right now. We're going to take a little break, guys, so you can think about how much I've just wound up chat there. You can go get yourself a drink. You can go take a breather, and we're going to be back with the final of the first ever Mythgard Open. This is not one you guys want to miss. It's going to be amazing. Bad taking on Peter Max. Ready for the showdown. We'll be back in about 7 minutes, guys. Thank you very much. Catch you soon. And we are back with the moment you guys have been waiting for, the moment where we're going to see which Mythgardian is crowned champion of the first ever Mythgard Open. $800 up for grabs in the final. It was $1,000 prize pool. We've already seen Madoka take third place and claim $200 of that prize pool. $500 up for grabs for the winner. $300 up for grabs for whoever takes second place. As you guys already know, because you've been here all along, because you're amazing. Wholesome is with me, taking you through all of the action. It's been an absolutely incredible event so far, right, buddy? What has been for you a standout moment? It could be play, it could be a deck, anything.
I really liked Reg's decks. That was definitely a standout moment for me. But I think on top of that, and the last series, that Strigoi Proto just dominating the board, and that Immortal through Sunrise effect was just absolutely awesome. He was a one-man army, just and just swung the game so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no denying that. Obviously, Reg's decks were. I love it when anyone brings a bit of spice. When someone steps outside the norm, shall we say, and brings something that is bold, ambitious, and just beautiful in general. But that's Strigoi Proto was just completely dominating the board. Also, I mean, I know it's no surprise seeing Vouch win on turn 5 with movement, but that was just a very quick game. That just kind of was. I don't know so much as a highlight, but just kind of showcasing that, flexing the muscles of the blue, just saying, hey, don't forget about blue, right? We might have lost the series, but that's what can happen. 2-1. We saw Peter Max taking the series 2-1. We can jump over to the bracket now to confirm how we've got there and what exactly the final is. So we see Cool Cat unfortunately having to pull out because of family issues, and Bad has taken his way through to the final and will face off against Peter Max after that 2-1 win at Madoka. We've seen both. Well, we haven't looked at Bad's lists, which we're going to look at in a minute. But going into the final, we've seen literally Peter Max's journey the whole way through. Peter Max, how much of a challenge do you think they have? We know Bad has overcome Tune, one of the top players in the game. Got a bye previous round. How tough is this matchup going to be for Peter Max, knowing that they're going into this game against Bad? I tell you what, why don't we jump across to Bad's decks while I ask that question, so we can kind of talk through the list of Bad's decks while we're doing that. Again, these decks are brought to you by Mythgard Hub, but how tough is this now going to be for Peter Max? Taking those decks we've seen the whole way across the series into this final against these decks that we're seeing on screen now.
I think Bad has one of the most solid lineups. This was, if you asked me what 3 decks a player should bring, this is what I would have expected every player to bring. The classic YG list that has been dominating, and then the mono blue Valkyries for aggro, and then a really good mid-range list that's been tried and tested through countless patches and has been updated with the expansion that is RO, and adding cards like Grand Finale and the Forged package. But yeah, I definitely would say that Bad's lineup is very scary, so we're gonna have to see what Peter Max is gonna ban out. I'm assuming it's gonna be YG, but they might surprise us here and choose something different.
That's exactly it, isn't it? I was going to say, looking at the surface, it's easy to say, oh yeah, they're going to ban yellow green, because it's easy to just say, oh yeah, that's the easy option. But you actually look at the decks, and we saw the kind of power and tempo that mono blue can put out, and it's terrifying when it plays to curve. And then we know anyone who's played Mythgard for longer than 2 weeks will know just how strong red orange is. And as you quite rightly said, it only got stronger with the Rings of Immortality package, especially the Forged package, and they're running that Grand Finale, which is an incredibly strong card. So it's not as simple, is it, for Peter Max to say, oh, I'm just going to ban the yellow green. It's more of a case of looking at my decks. Now, do you think Peter Max has got anything in their list, in their blue yellow enchantment list, in their green purple necromancy list, or in their red orange list that plays against yellow green, that they allow that deck to go through? Is there anything that Peter Max has got up their sleeve for that, do you reckon?
Well, so the green purple deck that Peter Max has brought is actually has a good chance against the yellow green deck. Not only does it run Defy Death against the Volition combo late game, but it also just generates so much value with Night Market that can really take it to the late game, and then just burst them, especially comboed with Defy Death, and then the Call from the Grave. So they have the burst potential to not give them the good wonder drugs that they're looking to get, and keep themselves in the game with the YG list.
Yes, no, exactly that, and it's going to be a hell of a matchup. It is going to be a hell of a matchup. We can jump across the bands now. I'm actually excited to see what route and options the players are taking here, especially Petamax. I'm interested to see what Petamax has done or what they've chosen to ban. So we're going to jump across the bands now. I'm going to quickly talk through these here. So we can see that Petamax has chose to go with the red-orange. He's going to allow the mono blue and the yellow green. Does that surprise you at all, Wholesome?
It doesn't surprise me that much. As I said, I think either the purple green deck, even RO has a chance against that YG list, especially since it's Journey of Souls, right? You're going to be getting minions back after misanthropias and whatnot. But definitely interesting to see a bad ban the yellow blue. That I don't think we've seen them play that deck once. Everybody has banned it. It's just, if that deck gets going, you just don't stand a chance. It develops way too much value late game.
Yeah, no, completely that. And we can jump into the final right now, and we can see straight away that in game one, Bad has decided to bring the mono blue list, and Petamax has brought the red-orange mid lane list. A little bit of showman, or not showmanship, sportsmanship there from Bad and Petamax, giving them a little thumbs up emote, cheeky little thumbs up, saying, I respect you guys. We've all seen Predator. We know that handshake. That's basically what they were doing then, that handshake that we all love. And now they're ready to lay down the gauntlet. But which one will be Duke from Predator and which one will be the Predator? That's the question we're going to find out right now. Talk us through these opening hands, Wholesome.
It's not looking too great for Bad. They don't have a good turn two. I mean, they could play an enchantment, and they don't have a good turn three play, but they are on the draw, so they have the pursuit with the coin, and they can play a 4-drop, which is a very strong turn three play. We saw this matchup last series, the mono blue Valks against Peter Max's RO, and we saw that they if they can hold in long enough to get that Strigoi Proto or something else on the board, that's just gonna they need to control the game and reestablish the board, right? So if they can do that again, it's going to be really good, and they looks like they have some pretty good tools for that.
Yeah, I mean, one card that jumps straight out to me in Bad's hand is Magna Thorson. I mean, we saw it was the joint most brought mythic to this tournament, along with Kara Morning Wives, both being featured in every single player, one of every single player's lists. Now, the reason it's so good in this list is obviously one, it could potentially remove these smaller recruit minions or other minions of that. Obviously, it's an instant shutdown for Seven Ring Ritual. But also with these demolition speedways, it adds 2 damage to those, right? Because if it's on a bigger minion and get the overrun damage, it allows that extra little bit of creep damage to sneak over the top, which, as we have seen again in this blue list, every bit of damage is vital to find that lethal and find those lines.
Yep. And here we see Sven come down, which is absolutely insane. Whatever the next enchantment they get and they want to play is going to be reduced by 2 mana. And it's interesting, as you said, with the Magnus and Peter Max is holding on to the 7 ring ritual, which when you're playing against blue as RO or any red deck running that card, you are hoping and praying that you can bait out either Thunderclaps and or Magnus, so you can safely play that 7 ring ritual without it instantly getting countered.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a 6/5 Sven on turn 3 is a little bit terrifying. It's a little bit nasty of Bad. I mean, bad by name, bad by nature, by the seams of it with that kind of play. And we're going to see Braggy, the absolute hero Braggy, coming out wide with the ability to draw a card and then place a card back in deck, looking to say, K9, I like you. You're your man's best friend, being a dog, but you're not my best friend today. Pop back in that deck, and we'll try and find something else out as well. It's been deciding to get rid of Sign of Pride, which makes sense, right? Because it doesn't shut down the Pride of Place because it can still be using a friendly minion to create a 4/4, but
Mhm.
it definitely makes it a lot less scary.
It denies that free trade, right? But what I really like about Peter Max's play is that by him doing that, and not only into this Hades play, but if you look at his boneyard, the Scion of Pride is it's the second card at the
Yeah.
bottom. And so after this next turn, it's going to be the very bottom card. So they're going to be getting a Scion of Pride back after the next three minions die, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, and obviously getting it back later in the game means you can play it and play that Pride of Place in one turn, and that's when it's
Hmm.
really at its full potential, right? Like coming down and shutting down a Magnus or anything else that is oversized. Not only potentially to remove that turn, but
I mean,
hey,
this
if it's on,
Braggy or a Kara, like,
yeah, just completely shuts it down. And then by playing the Designer Pride opposite it, also it says, hey, you're done. Like and then the Enforcer bumping back the certification engine, which still keeps the demon tag, still keeps the frenzy and all that jazz. And then we're going to see the
oh,
trapezes come in, nicely remove the Enforcer. Now it has frenzy, and it's going to pose. The moment we have 6 damage on the board here, which is putting Bad down to 11 health, which is a risky situation to be in with this kind of high level play.
I think you just transformed the Braggy right now. You don't want anything coming down and getting any sort of frenzy off of that. I guess if you still hold on to the Pride of Place, you can transform whatever they do give frenzy. But what are you like? Bad's already on 11 HP,
Yeah,
and you have two frenzy minions on the board, and you're running infuse.
yeah.
So this
So
is not looking great for Bad.
do you feel Magnus is a good play this turn? It doesn't read certification engine. It gets rid of that frenzied trapezist. It gets rid of the recruit. Do you think there's more value to be held to be had by holding on to Magnus?
I think you're on 11. You have to go for the Magnus play.
Yeah.
You're on the back foot. You need a big tempo play to kind of regain board control, right?
Yeah. What's
Um,
important with that though is that's now if we look, put the Journey of Souls up to 3, meaning hey, we're getting back that Sign of Pride straight away. 2 turns
right.
later, Sign of Pride is back, and that is not something Bad wants to be seeing while looking down the barrel of 11 health gun, which is not a great place to be.
So I
Uh,
kind of like the Scion across from Braggy, or maybe lane two and transform. Just don't even like give Bad a chance to get that frenzy off. Especially with a sidecar play, because you are like Peter Max is on 18, and we know the burst potential of Falks.
Yeah, well, you said sidecar. The other card, Bridgeway Troll, we saw in the previous series just how
Hmm.
much tempo that opens up. Like you have the tempo, and all of a sudden you're struggling to find the open lanes. Bridgeway Troll solves that. It lets you find those open lanes, and he's going to do exactly that. They're going to come down. Pentamax is going to do exactly that. They're going to come down, get rid of that Braggy, get rid of that frenzy opportunity, move the certification engine over. Which if it dies at the moment, it won't come back despite being on Stairway to Hades because it has already got the demon tag on it from where it came back previously.
Hmm.
I mean, Bad's hand isn't looking great. I mean, Freggy Sidecar is always a nice card. It can explosive plays. Bridgeway Troll can open up lines. We know that. But the 18 health, it's not, hasn't quite got the oomph, shall we say, to it that we feel like it could have. Do you feel like Freggy Side?
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, do you feel like a Freggy Sidecar with the tough swinging into on Speedway to swing into the certification engine? But I was completely
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah,
We're going to
they're
put
gonna
Pride
run
across.
away, right? Yeah.
Makes sense.
And
Move
then
this
move
off
that
and then
over and
bring
let
the
Magnus go
Thornton.
face. Yep. So, but the interesting thing is that the Hades is across from the Speedway that Bad wants to keep using, right? So they're gonna be able to make some plays here. But they are on 9 life.
Yep. They certainly are. And there's a Karen Henge and the Frecky Sidecar in hand. And that Karen Henge is completely free because the Svin that came down several turns ago.
Hmm. And it's interesting. Bad hasn't been drawing any enchantments off of Rainbow. I think that was one of the first ones this game that we saw that they got the free enchantment at the end of their turn uh, off of Rainbow.
Yep. No, definitely. Definitely. It's an interesting place to be. Bad on 11 life, Peter Max on 9 life. It's again, Blues can find that line if they need to find it. There's nothing in hand at the moment that you would say is great for the stairway. So you can see the infuse come down there, get rid of that bridgeway troll, which is always nice because it gets rid of that movement potential, right? Because it's not just awaken, obviously, you can keep popping it, and it doesn't cost mana, it just costs gems. And then we're going to see Recruit come down there, which will offer a double blocker to Magnus. Magnus does have the overrun ability, so he would still be swinging over the top, and they'll be taking 5 damage to face, put him on 4 health. And there is only that Pride of Place in hand at the moment, which may come in handy. We don't know yet. Wait, is this lethal?
Lethal,
here?
yeah.
Yeah, so we move across. There we go. We play the Frecky Sidecar. Oh, I expect them to move the other way, to be honest.
3.
But
they don't have enough mana, right?
No, they don't. No, they were short on the mana. That's my fault. Yeah. You're completely, completely right. They're just short on the mana.
So they would need 2 more mana, right, to impel Sidecar.
Yeah.
Or, you kill that. It's lethal.
Swing that through, and then
wait, what? Okay,
there you go.
that works too.
There we go. There was lethal there. There was
multiple lines of lethal. The one I was looking at first, it didn't look like lethal. Then I found
I found it the other way by moving the Magnus the other way, playing the Sidecar lane 3, and then the Scout lane 1. Lane 4 in the middle, and then that would have swung through. But they found lethal. It's all that matters. Yeah, it was. That was a proper Battle of the Titans. Like, you take a right hook, I take a right hook, you take a left hook, I take a left hook. It was a back and forth. A brutal game. But game 2 is up now, so we can jump straight into game 2, and we can see Bad bring in the yellow, green, and Peter Max, who's on the back foot now because they are 1-0 down, needs to find a way of countering this yellow-green deck. A deck we know can be extremely strong, especially the longer the game goes on. And Peter Max needs to find a way of not only squashing it, but nullifying it and winning before it really starts building up steam. If it builds up steam, if it starts finding its really strong kind of game with Bald Mountain, and it starts pulling back the Wonder Drugs and playing 4 Wonder Drugs and plays 4 Misanthropias and double Traitorous Mermaid, all this stuff, it's just Peter Max needs to find a way of squashing it before that. And we know they can, because we saw in the previous series against the Red-Orange list that they won by turn 6. So they can be aggressive with this list. They just need the right stuff in hand. And at the moment, for the Reanimator list, they don't have that big minion in hand. There we go. Aiku off the top. That could give them a nice little bit of spice in the Boneyard to get going.
They don't have the Necromantic, though. And unfortunately, by the time they probably do find it, I think Angeli is going to be online, and it's just going to get shuffled right away. So,
yeah, definitely.
The other big card that counters Necromantic really hard is the Deported that you get from casting Detained, because whatever is reanimated by Hopeless Necromantic, oh wow, and they draw into it right away. Yeah, so they can just bounce it and it goes poof.
Meso as well, right? Because Meso is a card that just slows the game down. And if green, yellow want anything, they want it to slow down, so it starts playing at their pace. And the hand right now for Bad is incredibly strong. Peter Max has still got a strong hand. There's still a long way to go in this game, but just knowing the kind of the power that yellow green can put out in a long sustained game, it's looking like I'm going to say an uphill battle for Peter Max, but it's definitely not going to be an easy task.
Yeah, they're gonna need to find those night markets and really start developing some sort of value. Um, and yeah, find the burst combo. They need to chip away and then find the burst combo so bad can't get the wonder drug off and restabilize.
Yeah, no, and that's it. At the moment, there is no one drug in hand, which
Mhm.
I wouldn't say is important, but we see that another card, Plague Maidens. Plague Maidens can just be. We mentioned it earlier. They're also running Protect, so they can spend the 2 mana to give it Protect and then just ping the Plague Maidens. It's a literal board wipe in the right situation. It can be devastating to a deck that, especially running a path that doesn't bring stuff back with dice, stuff like obviously
Mhm.
Journey of Souls and something like that. It can be a really nasty board removal. We can see Plague Maiden come down right now and clear, do exactly that, clear the board. 2 damage, and there we
Yep.
go. That's the board gone, and it's what Bad wants. Bad wants a clear board. Play slow. Let them build a mana pool. Let them find their cards. Let them find their Bald Mountains. Let them find their Wonder Drugs.
So
Let them
yeah.
find them the Meteor Autocams, because that's their card draw, and we know
Hmm.
that card is really important, and that's all Bad's
But
doing, right? Nullifying it.
Peter Max has the Coxinga in hand for the auto cams. But
Yep.
it's important to mention that Peter Max floated 3 mana last turn, expecting Bad to have the third yellow gem into Misanthropia on turn 5 there. But the board wipe came in a different form, and that was Plague Maidens. But we do see that Peter Max does have the night market now. So they if I were in their position, I would not be burning Coxinga. I would be trying to, yeah, kill off this Plague Maidens. But well, I guess it's fine to burn Coxinga and you play Night Market Barkeep and you try and start flipping to find it again. They don't have the artifacts up yet, so it's not that important.
No, and there we see the
That
Misanthropia,
makes
which
sense.
Misanthropia come down now. But I mean, the only other minion in hand is a Born Again, which obviously Bad can see because it's come back from the Boneyard.
Hmm.
And Born Agains, they're nice. Obviously, they work wonderfully well with Disc, constantly binning something off on that. And Hayes going to go back, and this is just a situation that I feel Bad wants to be in. There's little coming, and a call from the grave off the top is not ideal. I mean, it can't actually pull
It
back
is one
anything
of
from
the
the
combo
Boneyard.
pieces, right? It doesn't have a target right now in the Boneyard, but it is one of the combo pieces. It was unfortunate that the racer was banished from killing the Plague Maiden since it's a 0/3
Yep.
and it didn't get killed off. But I think Peter Max is in a fine position.
Yeah, I mean, well, the life total is low. Let's say it's low. It's on 14, and um, the only issue with it is there we find the Bald Mountain, which burned earlier, and
Mm,
I mean, the Bald Mountain is there's already a host of stuff to pull back. We can pull back the Corrode Equipment, the Clay Effigy, the Overkill, the Detained, the Anheli. There's lots of cards to pull back off the Bald Mountain. It's a perfect time to develop the Bald Mountain because it's a very empty board. There's no threat for Bad at the moment, so it's a great time to get that out. And we're going to pull back the Overkill straight away, which is used as just as much for the card draw as it is for actually applying the Overkill.
yeah, I'm really interested to see a big play come out of Peter Max. Um, they need to flip and really find a spirit and an answer. Ooh,
I
that's
mean, they
pretty
find a
good.
perfect grade. They
They
find. I mean,
see,
that's
but
pretty
they
good.
see that they. This is what I was saying about detained deported, though, and that's why Bad used the detained early on. Is not only because detained deported cost 4 mana and 3 green gems to cast, but just the threat of having that card, shown in your hand. It's some psychological warfare. You
No,
know,
definitely,
it's like, come
definitely.
on, play that big boy.
So the Volition, and the reason they played the Volition, if anyone's wondering, because they can't swing with it, to get the proc on the Autocam, Meteor Autocam, because that will means they could draw a card off it. And because it's Bald Mountain, they can pull Volition back anytime they want to. So it's the They're purely playing these spells to get card draw. That's mainly what they're doing now. Every time the auto cam, which you can see bottom left of the screen, well, as I'm looking, it may be another one from the actual view on your stream. But the every time it gets to 3, they draw a card. They don't get to choose draw a card. It just automatically procs at 3 charges and goes on. So that's why the Volition was played in the middle. If anyone's watching thinking, why did they do that? Simzuan out over a night market. More items. There's a lot of items in hand right now. I mean, if Peter Max finds another 7 ramen, they win by default with Smite. So there's always that route to go down. But obviously, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, we see the Wonder Drug now.
Bad just casts Wonder Drug for the 5 life and gets it right back. They don't care. They just want to activate auto cam again.
Yeah, and then playing the credit equipment over there with the armor means it will remove some Zuin straight away as soon as turn passes, and it's just a case of you feel this. I don't want to be defeatist. I'm not, by all means, I'm not trying to come across like that, but it just feels the longer this game goes on, the more it does just lean into this green-yellow list, which we know is incredibly strong in the long game. That's into the autocam, which is always nice to say, hey, get rid of that card draw. However, there are another 2 in the deck, which could end up, being a bit nasty.
I think Bad needs to go on the aggressive here. They're already in a really good position, right? They have a full hand. They have a Bald Mountain established. They can see pretty much all of Peter Max's hand. You can start developing a Twins and see if Peter Max has any removal. I would not lead with the artillery, honestly.
Yeah,
I would lead with the Twins, right? Does Bad run 1 or 2 artillery?
I believe they run 2. I may be completely wrong there, but they run 1. Sorry, they run 1 artillery. Yeah, and at the moment the artillery alone is a 4-turn clock, right? 4 turns with the artillery, and it's game over.
Yeah, so I mean, my personal preference would be to hold the artillery a little longer. I'm not a YG player, by the way, just letting y'all know that. But yeah, I think Twins and Peter Max just doesn't have a board, and you're not playing into any board wipes and purple green. So why not just develop Twins here?
I mean, it makes complete sense. And obviously, that Wonder Drug is on show. It's almost teasing Peter Max because it's exposed, and it's like, hey, look, I've got this in hand, by the way. So, by the way, fire away all you want at me, and don't worry, I've got this Wonder Drug here. You can't beat me. It's complete tease. We can see the Croxinger come down again. It has to be replayed after the port. And then the options off it are Ruben enchantment to an unenchanted lane. Gain a Born in Cruelty spell, which would reduce a minion down to health down to 0 minus 1 of their health. So, for example, if it was played on Automagic Artillery, it would go down to a 2-1. It puts them down to 1 health. And
no, it won't because of the armor 2.
Oh, of course, yes.
So
it would damage it down to 3.
Of
course, yes, because it doesn't deplete. It's deal damage. So the Brawn and Cruelty does deal damage to a minion. Correct. It's not a status effect. Sorry, that was completely my mispronunciation there. But I could toss you off the top there. Contagion Gnome is another one that can tick up potentially over time. Leanne Haley's going to get rid of this Croxinger and put it back in the deck. I'm assuming we might see a couple more spells now and then see the Automagic Artillery start to ping away. It's not far from being on a 3-turn timer. But yeah.
I think they missed the damage. You're supposed to use artillery before bringing something back with Bald Mountain. Yeah, doesn't really matter, I guess.
I mean, artillery kicks off there, and we can see now artillery's down to 6 damage on a ping, so it's no longer on a 2-turn clock because, as you said, they brought something back with Bald Mountain. Every time they bring something back, that artillery does lose damage on that ranged attack, but still, it's a terrifying threat that at the moment Peter Max hasn't got any way of dealing with it. Well, they do actually. Spirit away, right?
Yep. And I think Peter Max needs to get that spirit, the necromantic, into the yard so they can try and do the call combo to kill bad off. I mean, they have 3 ramen stashed up right now in their hand, and the 4 damage that would come from the call, it's not enough. I think they might be playing it really close. They might even try and find their defy death and try and do a crackback lethal. We'll have to see what happens.
So
But
I'm questioning: can you play the spirit away on automatic artillery because it cannot be removed, returned to deck or hand? So how does spirit
oh,
away interact with that? Because does the transformation proc or does it? I'm interested to know how that works.
I believe uh I believe it should work. I'm not sure actually. Uh because it would transform it and then shuffle it, but maybe not. But Bella's a great answer to the artillery.
That's what I mean. But I am just hearing information now that um, actually, apparently, and this is on the grapevine as I'm hearing in my ear, that um, Peter Max is trying to play the Spirit Away on the Automagic Artillery, and it doesn't work. It's not allowing them to play it on the Automagic Artillery, so they cannot put it back to deck. I would
Wow.
assume that the transformation happened first and then went back, but apparently I am hearing that they are trying to play that and it isn't working. They basically were asking, is it meant to act like that, or is that an issue with the game? And um, not an issue, should we say, a bug? But
It's if it's intended or not. Yeah, I
yeah,
understand. That's really interesting. But they have Bella now, and they do have other spells that they can. The thing is that Bella's going to continue to lose energy as bad cast spells, and so, or it's just going to get shuffled.
yeah, that's exactly it. Just get shuffled away, and now, and as you said, as they cast spells, I mean, it's at 5 now where they kept pulling spells out, but still, it's just a threat, and it's not necessarily the only way of lethal. It's just a threat that we know can be an issue, especially with something like Volition in hand, because Volition can open up lines and do incredible high tempo damage in a single way.
9, 11, and 5. Ooh, it looks like Bad's gonna have lethal, depending on what Peter Max plays here. I really think they should have found Defy Death by now with all those compasses and the disc flips. And I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's definitely one of the strategies they have to use for this. The nice thing is they should save 3 mana for Born in Cruelty because during winter, because it does damage to a minion equal to its health minus 1, fragile 1. That means it's a straight kill spell.
yeah, no, exactly that. It's a straight kill spell, straight removal. Now, again, this is absolutely no questioning of Peter Max's deck building at all. But you mentioned Defy Death. Do you feel like this is the kind of situation where that Defy Death and Judas X combo would come into play? And we see there Peter Max throwing in the
Uh,
tower saying, hey, do you know what? I can't deal with this. The longer this game goes on, the harder it gets for me to maintain it. And they cannot deal with it. Which means that
we
bad
have a winner.
is not gonna be bad. Is our champion. Bad is our champion, coming out 2-0 there in the series against Peter
Wow.
Max, winning there with the mono blue list and winning with the yellow green list as well. Bad is it's a very good player. We saw them in the final with the Flashpoint number 2, where they played against Gary in the final when they would play mono blue against yellow green, and they unfortunately lost that final. But then the table flips, and they're playing yellow green in the final to win it 2-0, which is absolutely crazy. Wow, what a series! What a series, and what a tournament, eh, Holston?
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Some unfortunate events occurred, but uh, I mean that's the way she goes sometimes.
Indeed, indeed. Now we are we can see now on the screen confirmation there of Bad making their way all the way through, overcoming Toonstar round or in the quarterfinal 2-1. Then got the bye, shall we say, from Cool Cut. Unfortunately, had to pull out because of family emergency. Once again, all the best to you, buddy. And then overcoming Peter Max in the final 2-0 to be claimed or to be titled and crowned the first ever Mythgard Open champion. It's a wonderful title to claim. And not only that, buddy, you're $500 better off. That is a lot of pineapple pizzas. I've said it again. Oh my god. But no, it's been an absolutely incredible event. It really has been an event. What a final series. It rounded off nicely. As we said at the beginning, the bug feature that was brought into it, because just to remind people, if anyone's watching it and they're new to Mythgard, everything you've seen today has run inside the game client. The tournament system is built into Mythgard. Anyone can host a tournament. This was obviously an official tournament, so it was put on in partnership with Rhino, where 983 Media ran the production and the actual tournament. But anyone can put them on there. And the ban system was recently implemented. And I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me, Wholesome, that the ban system really brought a whole new variety to what matchups we saw. Obviously, not so much yesterday on stream, but especially today on stream.
Oh yeah, it was incredible to watch these players make these strategic decisions on which deck they wanted to ban out, and it added so much flavor to the whole tournament and gave us a tournament that wasn't a complete YG mirror fest. So yeah, we are very grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, and again, this is not us trying to question any player's decisions. It's just a kind of an analytical question I wanted to ask you. In hindsight, we saw that Peter Max decided to ban the red-orange mid-range deck and then allow the green-yellow, despite overcoming a red-orange deck. There's a little bit more aggressive red-orange deck in the previous series. Do you think that that's a decision they're going to, I don't want to say live to regret, but a decision that they could have taken differently? Do you understand why they allowed the green-yellow deck to go through? Oh, I think we have lost Wholesome, but it doesn't matter, guys. Don't worry. He's wholesome nonetheless.
I'm lagging out. Sorry, guys.
It's quite all right. Okay, so we are going to wrap it up there, people. Now, thank you to everyone for stopping by. It's been a wonderful event.
I'm surprised that Peter Max.
Oh, sorry, we are having some technical issues here on the joy of connectivity. We are having issues with connection stuff. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting the stream just by watching. It's wonderful to see this kind of level of Mythgard play, and it's wonderful to share it with you guys. Obviously, a massive thank you to 983 Media for hosting the tournament, the production of the tournament. I think we can all agree the production was absolutely on fire. So a great job to them. Obviously, a massive thank you to all our competitors. They came along, they brought their A game, and it offered some absolutely amazing viewing of this game that we absolutely love. And a huge thank you to Rhino, continuously supporting the game. I know they work around the clock to get these updates in there, to get stuff like the ban list in there that really help this kind of tournament move along. And then also a massive thank you once again to you guys for being here. The stream wouldn't work without you guys, so thank you very much for that. But I'm sure we'll see more competitive Mythgard in the future. I'm sure there'll be announcements about that, and we look forward to seeing whatever Rhino come up with or cook up when it comes to competitive Mythgard. But until next time, guys, make sure you all have a great day, morning, evening, whatever it is, where you guys are. Stay safe and take care. Goodbye.